April 8th, 2014.
And you got it wrong.
Is it not?
It's April 9th, 2014.
Fuck!
And this is Idle Thumbs 153. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
And I'm Sean Vanaman.
I'm back.
God damn it.
I got my its.
What would you have done if I got the date right?
I don't know. Quit.
Whoa!
Wow.
Fucking high stakes. I didn't realize I was flying so close
It's
to the
Defender. That's my job title.
It's Defender.
Yes. That's also what I say when Defender
When
is near me.
Defender is around, yeah.
Yeah.
How was your video game design boot camp that you were at all last week?
I made like 6 games.
Wow. What
Yeah.
were they?
Bad.
Is that what the series is called? Bad? Like Michael Jackson?
They're
this is
inspired
what
by
they
Michael
were.
Jackson's Bad Dudes,
Bad Cat.
Bad Boys.
Bad Cat the Game, Bad Boys 1 and 2, Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams production company.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bad News Bears. There's a...
Yeah.
movie.
It was a theme. It was like a bad jam.
Cool.
Yeah.
It went well?
No, it was bad.
Bad as Michael Jackson bad or bad as in poor?
It was fine. I was actually in Hawaii. It was a good place for a game jam about bad games.
Wow. Surprised we weren't invited.
A good jam about bad games. Bad Jam.
Bad Jam. .biz. This episode
Brought to you by Bad Jam.
by Bad Jam. What are we doing? Talking about Bad Jam.
We just seeded Bad Jam. We have to fucking pencil that in.
We had to get badjam.biz because badjam.com was already taken for a site about
By-
spoiled preservatives.
I thought you were going to say
That
it
was one of those jokes that I saw the whole long walk happen, and I was like, he's going there. He's going to go get it. He got it.
I had no idea where that was going.
Oh, really?
I thought you were going to say it's taken by the Phaedrus group. Just a way worse joke.
Also true.
That's reference humor, which we don't go for on this podcast.
Never that. You would know if you listened to last week's episode.
I know, I didn't listen to last week's episode.
I feel real bad at the beginning of this podcast. Bobby is deciding to back his V12 pickup out of the garage downstairs. So if you hear that, we're sorry.
I read the discussion about last week's episode, but I didn't listen to it. So I read people talking about how they were just like clawing their eyes out hearing Chris discuss Eddie Murphy's Raw and not knowing the name, but describing it as a Raw performance.
So raw.
And then all that made me think of was Homer Simpson talking about the movie about a bus who goes at a certain speed, and if it goes below that speed, these things happen, and then it's the bus that couldn't slow down. And then I realized that I was making
You were doing a
Simpsons reference
in your own brain.
Yeah, in my own
To
brain.
yourself.
So my thought process around that accidentally became a weird meta commentary on last week's episode, which I haven't listened to. Idle thumbs.
You haven't listened to it, but you make references to it anyway.
Yes, exactly.
So even more horrible.
Yeah.
Even more on brand.
Yeah. Even more
Yeah.
appropriate, let's say.
Cool.
Yeah.
It was a good up.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
You played Monument Valley.
Oh, I wanted to talk about a thing that I haven't played but have an opinion about. I won't do that. We'll talk about that later.
What?
I'm
Are you
so
gonna
glad
remember?
you're back. Say it out loud so we know to come back to it.
Luftrausers.
Oh, yeah.
Ah.
Okay. Well, now we're here.
Yeah, we can just talk about it. I haven't played the new one. I've only played the original
Yeah.
Flash game.
Yeah,
Right.
but the things that you probably mean to bring up are...
The cultural points that you and I were getting into last night.
Yeah, the color scheme and the Nazis. Those elements are the same, whether there's an S at the end of the title or
It
not.
was just the and the Nazis is always...
So what did you want to...
I don't know. I feel like people have opinions about it. I will actually start this. I don't know. God. Okay.
I think he's going to go for it.
No. Fuck. I had a whole thing that I wanted to talk about this morning in regards to this game. And in regards to like my position about jumping right in with my opinion. And it's a long walk that I don't know if I can actually encapsulate. But I'm definitely a person who would prefer to hear other people talk about it first because I don't feel confident or informed enough in the issues to actually say a thing
you want to explain what the issues are?
without Mike Krahulicking myself, basically. That's
Whoa!
like I'm not going to say something patently offensive and
Right,
rude,
right.
but like, yeah, okay. I mean, we could talk about. You want to go?
I mean, I guess. I don't know entirely how I feel about this either, so I don't... But just in terms of what people are talking about, so Luftrausers, I think we mentioned it like 2 weeks ago.
2 or 3,
I
yeah.
think it was
2 or
last week, I thought, with
No.
Danielle. Or was it the week before?
It was a couple weeks
Jake
before
was
that.
on it when we talked about it because he brought up the World War I thing, the Red Baron thing. But Luftrausers is a game. It's a 2D like aerial combat game in kind of in it like a mishmash, I guess, of World War I and World War II era inspired stuff. Or is it, right? I don't know.
That's how it struck me. That's not how the company themselves reference it. But
it's a mid-20th century air combat game.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like the imagery is very like Teutonic. Like it has, like it draws heavily on like Germanic military imagery, but it's also ostensibly set in like just sort of a fictional universe that is like resembles ours.
All of the like I went back and gave the actual art of the game a harder look, and I still haven't played it, which makes me my opinion. It makes me, but like all of the actual machinery and all of the specifics of all of the imagery is very much like folded, riveted metal. Like it is super World War II in tech. Okay, everything's got a painterly look that evokes pre-war stuff, except for the fact that all of the actual specifics are really are World War II.
And so it's original.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, just actually no. Finish framing it.
Yeah, I was just going to say. So
I'll accidentally seg
the like discussion surrounding it is related to people like drawing really, really strong parallels between the like fictional force that you play in this game and just straight up World War II Nazis. And the criticism of the game is that it kind of traffics in the like just seductive stylistic elements of Nazism without actually saying anything about it or dealing with it in any way beyond just like appropriating that aesthetic. And and then Vlambeer, the studio that made the game, responded and with a sort of a long blog post that I don't really feel like directly addressed that criticism.
No, I don't think it did at all. I actually have more criticism of the blog post.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like I'm more critical.
Vlambeer's communication in general seems to me like the biggest misstep of the situation on.
But they're also like
fronts.
English is a second language.
That doesn't mean anything though.
I don't know. I think it does. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like you give them a pass, but like it's worth. It's
worth.
First off, them being Northern European, I think
like Rami Ismail is incredibly eloquent. Like I know that guy. He's awesome.
Okay,
and like,
I don't know them at all.
He's not to talk to him. You wouldn't ever feel like you're getting through a language barrier.
Right.
Like the guy's really well spoken. Like he gives talks all the time.
For sure. Okay.
Like he's super smart. He's super cool guy. Super talented. But the blog post to me was very like it like talked around like the sides of the issue, but not the actual one that was being
I completely agree.
discussed directly. Like they're like, this is an ambiguous kind of fictional like setting between World War I and the Cold War. It is a side that like is not supposed to be the side that we were in World War. Like it's really weird, like aggressively ambiguous in the way they described it, which is fine if the game that they had made was that. But the thing people are taking issue with is that the game did seem to like very specifically evoke a particular army at a particular time. So their response to me is a little odd. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it because when I played the game, I didn't get as strong a vibe of Nazism as some people did. Right. So like, that's not to discount other people's reaction to it. It just means I don't entirely know how I feel. There's someone at the door, I guess.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Editing.
Welcome back, Sean.
Can you say the last part that you said just so Sean can hear it? Because I feel like I don't. Also,
Sorry,
I was totally
landlord knocked
distracted.
on the door.
What did I just say? Oh, I can't remember what I just said. I think I said something like
It's gone forever.
You said, I just didn't hear what you said starting with when I was actually playing the game.
Oh, right. So, but for me, when I was playing the game, I didn't actually pick up on the overt, like
you were just seduced by the imagery.
What's funny is that is completely where that is where I'm at. Until somebody brought it up to me.
Well, right, exactly.
I played the game and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like that's a thing that looks like a thing that
no, that's how I felt too. I just played it and I'm like, oh, it's like I like the color palette they chose and like there's weird definitely like general Germanic kind of Teutonic thing going on, but like it definitely didn't like smack me in the face with Nazism when I played it until
what's
people
so funny
pointed it
is
out.
when it was brought up to me by a friend, I guess he tweeted about it publicly, Rob Dubbin, so I guess it's worth bringing up on the podcast because those are public information. When Rob Dubbin tweeted about his sort of like this, he likes the Lambier guys too. I don't think he was, and he's also, I think his criticism of the game is a little different than a like.
This guy's the like guy who writes for the Colbert Report and like does cool development stuff
like,
online.
Yeah, he's sort of definitely in the like the New York City indie game community, I think.
Yeah, I like him a lot. He's smart.
Great guy, really great guy.
He's fine.
Really?
No, I don't even know if I've actually ever met him. I think I
I'm
said
back
hi to
in
him.
his.
You met him at PAX.
I'm back in his.
So it was right after I started. It was right before I started barfing. Yeah.
This week I'm back in his follower account.
Oh really?
He set up this. What's that?
I think I might permanently be there.
Really?
No way.
It always feels like he follows me.
It's random from a bot.
Is it?
Yeah. Like he set up a thing where one week, like a month or two ago, he unfollowed everyone he followed. He had 0 following count, and then had a bot that like logged all the people that he had been following before, and it randomly chooses like 180 of them or something every week. So every week his Twitter account just like has a new shuffled set of his former followed accounts. It's a weird thing.
I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But yeah, he tweeted just about his criticisms of the aesthetic, but also couched inside of I think he likes the Flambeer guys, and wants there to once what is impossible on the internet, which is a like actual conversation about it. But him bringing up Nazi imagery from the perspective of especially him being Jewish, and him that being his Insta read, whereas for me it was just sort of like it looks kind of like I don't know, Germany. Like it's actually kind of fucked up. And then when I sat back and thought about it,
for sure,
it was sort of like it made me realize the danger of that stuff just being coded as a aesthetic that is like air quotes looks cool or whatever, or is like a palette that you can go and pull from the same way you could like any culturally specific aesthetic. So like being like just like smacked in the face with some self-realization that I had just let it wash over me without ever thinking about it was actually the valuable thing for me. Totally. Like it doesn't mean that I think the game is bad or I think those guys are assholes or anything. I totally agree. But it was definitely like a self-growth moment where we're like, oh, I didn't even fucking think about it.
Yep.
And that was enough for me to like.
No, I agree. I'm not particularly interested at this point in like issuing like a fucking judgment on those guys, really. Like,
same here.
Like that's not. I don't think that's interesting or useful to anyone at this point. But yeah, I do think it's totally valuable in terms of just that realization.
That moment of just
this could actually like
because when I play that game,
strike a different chord with a different person who's had different life experience.
Yeah.
What? Like it just totally didn't hit me.
People who listen to this podcast will know that I tend to like, depending on the game, I will receive the game totally differently. Like there will be games where I will like every choice the game makes, I will stack up against every other choice the game makes, right? Like, and that is like, there are games where I find that is like really important and like not even deliberate. I'll just do that naturally. But then there are other games I'll play where I just consume it, right? Like the game is like a functional object to me, and it's not. I don't deliberately choose that. It depends just on what the game is.
Like
and
Doge 2048,
like Doge 2048. Although that one, I feel like
I'm still waiting for your Medium post about Doge 2048. I'm waiting for your fucking think piece.
If I still wrote blog posts about games anymore, I would, but I don't.
Doge 2048 magazine.
What if I like coerced you into doing that over the next week? That would make me really happy.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't have any time ever to do shit like that. Like just an arbitrary additional thing.
What if at like 2:00 in the middle of the day when we're all working on something, or 3:00, I'm like, Chris, take an hour off. Doge 2048.
You can try.
Time.
We'll see.
All right. I would just really like that.
Anyway, the point is like Luftrausers is a game that when I load it up, like I have that first time moment of like, I like their color choices, and like, maybe I'll think about some of the sort of thematic inclusions, but like really every single other time I load up that game, what I'm doing is like mash up plane launch, shoot plane, like 4 minutes of total insanity, score, mash up. Like it's my brain like bypasses all that because That's what Flambeer games are most of the time. They're like these hyper distilled,
It's why
super responsive, like incredibly tight packages, and it's a thing I really appreciate about them. It's a type of reductive design that I think is like sublime at its best. Like because those games draw from classic arcade games, but there's so much more. They're even tighter and more focused. It's like amazing when those guys are on. Like their stuff is just incredible. Right. But it totally like just goes down a different neural pathway in my brain, I think, than the kind that is like funny is critically receiving it in a.
It's so similar to like playing Ridiculous Fishing on my iPad, right? I'm playing Ridiculous Fishing on my iPad, and my wife looks over my shoulder and goes, "Did you just explode a beluga whale?" Like, yeah, sure, yeah, whatever. I just need the points.
Yep.
The same way she could look over my shoulder and be like, "Are you a Nazi, right now?" Yeah, whatever. I'm fucking just need the points. Like it's the same.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I don't know. Except the one's a Nazi,
right?
Which I think is the thing that gets lost, and I think it is actually important.
It's the thing about it that's interesting to me. I mean, all of that stuff. The moment of realization was for me also like
it's a Nazi plane.
Yeah.
You know what? I think. Sorry, go ahead.
You say what you're going to say first.
Oh, I think the moment of realization for a lot of people who. That same sort of moment of realization of like, oh, fuck, like, I didn't even think about that. Like, whoops, I didn't. Self-growth. People react really poorly to that moment oftentimes in life because it makes them feel like shit.
It makes you fuck you for making me think that.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Why does everything gotta be a fucking thing? Blah, 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 blah. But where was I going to go with that?
Yeah, it's true. That came up last week a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like that feeling definitely came up a lot. But at the same what I was going to say, that if it happens to you and you're the creator, you are fucked. Like, what are you supposed to say?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Like, guys, honestly, didn't realize.
Right.
Like, what is that blog post supposed to be? Because that could have happened to me. If I had those guys' skills, if I had their skill set, artistically and design-wise, and I was in a vacuum with like 2 or 3 people who making a game
that happened,
wasn't showing it to anybody, and then put it out, and then they said, whoa, Nazis. I would go,
we got that one playtest note in Walking Dead Season 1 in Episode 3 when, I guess I could give a Walking Dead Season 1 spoiler.
Oh, and Katya eats it?
When Katya dies, one playtest feedback person said, it feels like Katya's death was just a device to push Kenny's story forward. And we just went, well, it's done.
I had to chloroform that person and throw them in the fucking bay.
It was...
That's their reaction. You're like
that's.
I remember looking at. I remember
you committed is just a device to help ease your.
It was Arthur's wife, whose name I cannot remember either.
And I remember looking at her, and there was a solid 3 count. And I remember somebody went to be like, "Whoa!" Like somebody went to defend it, and I was just like, "You were completely right.
We're done.
You were completely right." And the amount of AV that has already been put into selling that moment in this game, and its repercussions going forward for the rest of the story is unchangeable. And fuck, you were fucking right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's a hard moment. But had that moment happen publicly, what do you say other than like, "Whoops"? Like whoops is the wrong way to say it. Right. But I feel like what they did say was also incorrect. Like not addressing it at all.
Yeah,
I thought that was.
It's when that spotlight points at your face, and you also were like, "Oh yeah, huh." Did kind of eat that one.
I think it's the difference. I mean, we were comparing it to the Colbert tweet, right? Last night.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't know the story,
I don't want to.
We don't need to get. Just go look it up. Like Colbert said something that got turned into a tweet by the network, and then people lost their shit about it. Stephen Colbert, the comedian. I wasn't clear.
Colbert Cassavin.
But I feel like he addressed it 100%. Like took it head on the next night on the show, and whether you agree with him or not, he still addressed it. Whereas I don't feel like the Vlambeer post was, I feel like it was just talking around it. They didn't kind of say like, they kind of regretted that the game had been described as a World War II dogfighting game on Steam. And that's, I think, since been changed. Hopefully I'm not slandering them, but I remember that being in the blog post somewhere.
I think if it being a pastiche was what they were going for, they probably shouldn't have described it as a World War II game, and they probably should have made sure that it was actually coming across 100% as one. It actually read like that to me.
Yeah.
But
like pastiche would still mean that it's carrying the It means it's an aware reference, right?
Yeah, yes, but
Like a Quentin Tarantino film knows what it's borrowing from.
this is that. Yeah, but okay. This is the thing that's interesting to me that I pre-disclaimed, which is where exactly is that line, and that is the part that I can't entirely unpack. Like, is it okay? Obvious surface level thing. You are flying an airplane, which is a Nazi airplane. You are a Nazi pilot. Is that what it is? Is it like, what if it had Nazi and Japanese stuff from World War II? What if it had things from World War One? Like, obviously, like, what if it had American and Soviet stuff in it? Like, at what point does this slide back off into okay if weird, and then into okay? And that's,
I mean, I
It's
think
really
the okay thing is tough, right?
that's not,
Yeah.
it's not answerable, right? I mean, you're not gonna make a dogfighting game that is about the travesties of the Nazi army in World War II. If
You
you're
could.
if you're Vlambeer, you're not going to.
Right.
But also, if you're Vlambeer, you're not going to make a dogfighting game where you're just like a beefy American with a scarf, like grinning with two like pinup girls hanging off his arm, because that's the opposite imagery of that war. Like, that's the other propaganda side.
But you could have still done that.
Yeah, but like Hellraisers is not a compelling game, whereas Luftrausers is. Like, just, it's the reason they went for it is because no one has done it, but no one has done it for a reason that they did not ask about. That's
Yeah.
but like, it's, I'm not trying to defend their game.
No, I
I'm
know
trying to
you're
figure
not.
out like
All right.
how do you,
I don't think their game needs to be defended.
I'm
to be
kind
honest.
of trying to figure out how do you get to the thing that they're getting at, but it's a version that's okay, because you're playing like,
For me, it's all just sort of like, I think the meaning of the creative choice needs to be apparent in the text, whereas it just kind of felt like it was chosen because it looked cool.
I don't think it was chosen entirely because it looked cool, though. I mean, I think you playing as, like, this is just shittily, like, throwing aside everything, you are playing as the seductive villain character in culture, right? You're playing as the guy who is, like, very well designed, has better gadgetry, like slicker, weirder stuff, can do all the cool moves, and still, in history, was bested by the heroes, but still, like, the bad guys have all the cool stuff. Like, that's, I think, what they were going for getting this particular collection of now reduced cultural bad guys are, in fact, responsible for massive acts of genocide that still ripple out into people who are alive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they could have just doubled down on it and said you're Nazis, and it made the entire game dogfighting part of it exactly as it is, and then just have interstitial scenes of just the worst shit ever.
But that's not...
They would.
I know, but you could.
You
Because
could.
then
I don't know if
you
that's.
would be at least showing that you're aware of what
Yeah,
you're
but I don't know if that
referencing.
makes it good. I don't know if that's a good thing to do just because you're aware of it.
I'm not advocating that as a creative choice for them, but
Yeah, I don't know.
it's in that weird zone of like, you guys, how should this be interpreted? And it felt like Vlambeer doesn't even know from their blog post.
Yeah.
That's something that's strange to me.
I think it's personally, I think it's totally okay for creators to make things about which they're not sure. Like, I think it's totally fine as a creator to make something and not have any clue how people are going to interpret it. It's just that once you bring in things that do have real meaning to people, that you're just playing with a lot more fire. Like, I think it's totally fine to make things without clear intention. Not that doesn't work for every creator, but I think it's a totally valid means of creation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that you're taking bigger risks when the component parts of the thing you're making actually connect to people's lives.
But I know, and it feels like these guys don't even know that they were taking a risk.
Right, I know.
I think that's the issue,
But the
right?
reason I feel that way is because as a musician, I feel like a lot of the times the stuff you make is purely intuitive. I mean, maybe
Right.
not when you're making music like to be part of another work. That's
Right.
a little different. But like
Right.
when you're just making music just as a
Mhm.
creator, like it's super intuitive. And I feel like games can be that
Sure.
in a way that movies most of the time cannot be, you know, because
Mhm.
they can be totally abstract. Like
Mhm.
there are a lot of games that aren't quite that, like, games have rule sets, so it's a little bit different.
Mhm.
But there are games where I play them and I feel like they must have been made at least on the content side, largely intuitively.
Sure,
and I think that's really cool.
But it's not like that's. There's not like a direct pipeline from that process to the marketplace, right? Because like if
there's not. I'm just saying,
a song, right? You sat down to do a song, and you like were just intuitively, it had sort of like a like 19th century sort of like slave songness to it that had that same sort of rhythm and like was steeped in a real like heritage of of American history that you would have to you would sit back, you would make the thing, you would listen to it, and then you would go go through a filter, be like, okay, what are my references in my content? Where do those intersect? And is that what I want? Am I cool with that?
I think the thing you're describing actually happens a lot and doesn't have that. Like even in music, I think it's super common. If you look at just the history of popular music, I think it's super common for like exploitative shit like that to happen. People never think about it at all before it gets to market.
Yeah, but I mean, people have written a ton about that.
No, I know they have. I'm just saying. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Making things is fucking weird. It's hard and weird.
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to feel about this game entirely. I don't know how to feel about this stuff. Like this stuff conceptually, it's really, really hard to think about.
Yeah. It also creates 16-page forum posts on the Idle forums.
Yeah.
Thanks for indulging us a little bit and letting us talk about whatever we want.
Yeah.
Because we definitely did that last week, and then I realized we slipped right back into that glove.
I know we gotta talk about other stuff. Not that this is not incredibly important and interesting, but like, yeah,
sometimes that'll happen.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
We should do
the range of thoughts that I had when that story broke was just out of control.
I know, because if you're someone who makes things, it spirals out into a crazy
the place that you went
accordion of shit
in this, Sean, of just like, what if this was me, or like what does it got to be like to be I could have put this game out.
Yeah,
I'm not capable of making a dogfight shooter that's at all, let alone one that's good. But I like who I am as a human being and just what my life is. I could make I could do that, and then that could happen. That was one avenue of it. Also, just
like I've written lines already on the game where I've written lines already on the game that I've shared internally where I'm like, is this not it okay for this guy to say?
Yeah.
When you're writing a character, I feel like it's easy. You get away from it, right? Because like Henry's allowed to say shit that is politically incorrect because Henry is a character. Right. You know what I mean? It's like but like you have to take one step back.
The onus is on you to reflect the world honestly, and that character honestly, and then but hopefully the voice of the game is not
like the voice of the character and the voice of the game are always the things, especially early on in a project where you're like you go crazy trying to unconflate the two and make them different and make them about something individually.
But the voice of the game also includes it's the synthesis of that character and also the other characters and also the events that permeate the world, all those things, you know what I mean? So
just the way the actual systems kind of judge your performance relative to the way that the characters are speaking.
And also just the fictional world the character lives in, that's important too.
But I also, I don't know. I'm about to uncork a fucking thing that I didn't know if I actually wanted to. I think sometimes people hate the fact that their thing could be interpreted poorly and then make the decision anyway in spite of that. Because they're like, fuck people who are going to think that this is a thing that it isn't. And then put in a choice that just offends a bunch of people. I think sometimes, especially comedians do that. Bad comedians do that at the end.
Yeah, that definitely happens.
I think so, at least.
Oh man, speaking of that, we should read that guy's comedy school forum thread during reading.
Oh yeah, we will.
What? He wrote it into questions.
Okay, that'll be from questions. So if you need me, I will be at the school that this man took me to.
Anyway, we played Monument Valley.
Yeah, do you like it?
I like it so far. It seems really cool.
What level are you on?
8.
Okay. Yeah, you just started 8.
Okay, we're on the same level.
Okay, I have completed the game.
It's 10 levels, right?
It is 10 levels.
Yeah. For some reason, I hit 8, and I was like, I need a pause.
I was about to start 8.
Yeah.
And I didn't play anymore.
That's exactly where I'm at. That's exactly where I'm at.
Right around then is when the levels start getting to
the level
multi-screen
7 was the first one that was very long to me. So okay, before we start talking about it,
it's a video game.
This isn't a game for...
Or is it? It's a mobile game.
This is a game for iOS devices called Monument Valley, and it's $4 or something.
Yeah,
$3.99.
Yeah, and it's a platformer that is 3D, but it's 3D in the way that MC Escher drawings are 3D. So there are crazy like contiguous spaces that would not be contiguous in reality. So it fucks with perspective constantly.
It's similar to like the game Echochrome that came out early in the PS3's life.
Yeah.
It has like elements of Fez to it, except it's from an isometric perspective and not flat on. It feels like
it's just amazing looking. Like it's just very
It's just beautiful.
crisp.
Yeah.
It
visually though, it even feels like if like Fez and Echochrome and like Journey made a weird baby.
Totally. Like,
It has the very flat like gradient color look of Journey that looks almost
and also the
almost
palette,
2D until it moves.
Also,
sort of
the
pastel
palettes
desert
are great.
palettes.
Like different levels feel color graded differently, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's got a really, really nice look. Although I have mixed feelings about the overall aesthetic package of the game, and I'll explain why in a bit. But like, I love playing it. Like it's there are a lot of times it can feel very kind of just lock and key and very just constrained, but also it's just constantly novel, in the way that you want games like this to be, where like, oh no, you can interact with the world in this crazy way. Like, oh, you can walk, like this thing happens when you walk on like over here. Like what?
Yeah.
It's constantly throwing stuff like that at you. And it
doesn't try to wring like every last drop out of those novel introductions either. You sort of experience one, you sort of enjoy it, and then you move on, which is
if
really
anything,
nice.
it has like too light a touch at times.
Yeah.
Like in like level 2, there's an element that you can drag around, and the visual treatment on that element to suggest that is like it's super identifiable once you know it can happen, but if you don't know it can happen at all, and just like it's so subtle, which most of the time is nice. Occasionally I give whatever, but I like it a lot. It's really cool. I will play the last 2 levels, I guess.
You have 8, 9, and 10.
8, 9, and 10. Okay, 3 more levels. Yeah.
The last 3 levels of the game are actually, I mean, you can kind of tell from the 7th one that it
starts to.
It doesn't do, like, I guess it's a spoiler. I don't know. It doesn't do what Portal 1 does, where you think you're at the end and the second half of the game just appears out of nowhere, but the level size ramps up, and
sure.
It definitely feels like it's
the complexity of sort of the devices that you're interacting with starts to get heavier, to the point that it does a thing that not a lot of people seem confident to do, and like it just has the last couple of levels, you can finally start to sort of see all of the different little pieces of the game working together, where sort of like your guy walking off axis from gravity,
your
and like
she's a lady.
Oh, your lady. Sorry. You're right. I forgot about that. And just elements of the level being able to slide and rotate and spin around when your character is on them, when they're not on them, and all of those things working in tangent. And then the game is over, and it gets just enough, I think, that you're like satiated.
Right, but it doesn't wear out its welcome.
Yeah, but it doesn't wear out its welcome. That said, if there was an 11th one that was just
insane,
I would have been pleased. They said they're doing more content for it, I think, actually.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't really know what this game was, but I saw a couple people talking about it on Twitter that caused me to look into it. And I, like Greg Rice, who I used to work with Double Fine, and someone else, I forget, were saying, like, I've been playing this game really slowly as I get to the end because I just don't want it to be over.
Right.
I saw that sentiment from a few people. Yeah. Which is cool. I can totally understand. It's one of those games that...
well, yeah, because you can leaf through the number of levels right at the beginning of the game, and you get to 10, and then when you pull like the swipe past it just spins, and you can see the next face on sort of the little stage selection thing is just blank. Like, oh, wow, okay, this is going to be short.
Yeah. I mean, I got through the first 7 levels in I think well under an hour. Like,
it feels like that's maybe level 7 might be the halfway point, though.
Yeah.
When it comes to time.
Yeah, that's probably actually accurate.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Sorry, okay, you were about to say
something. Nothing. No, I mean, I was going to... It also has elements. The things that I'm not actually wild about it are like the elements that feel very like drawn from something like Sword and Sorcery. Just sort of like abstract, like dreamlike narrative that's it's so withholding in its like in its detail that I don't feel like it can make an impact.
Well, you know how it feels to me? This is really specific, but it is exactly how it feels to me. It feels to me like the way that... So I used to write a lot of songs. Like when I was in college, in the first few years out of college, I used to write a lot of songs that I didn't really even like... The vast majority of them have never been like released or shown to anyone really, like outside of maybe
until now.
No, like really never.
It's turned into like
stores on Idle Thumbs
an hour of music.
Yeah, and part of the reason
I see.
Part of the reason for that is that when you write songs,
Chris Ramo hits such as Just scroll the
Just
list.
like
The ones in
now
yellow are the ones that he's playing.
Go on.
That's available
You're
from
making a
Time Life
serious
Books
point.
and the Out of Thumb store.
Time Life books.
Oh, Time Life Music.
Ah,
Maybe it's a book that includes like some tape cassettes of your songs.
right. It's like the definitive liner notes.
It
has that really like crunchy plastic.
That's actually not
With
what
the
it is.
plastic.
It's the history of Western Europe and country music, or some just weird, horrible like that is across 50 volumes, but that's accompanied by.
Yeah.
That's a really ambitious piece of work for you right out of college.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm.
You don't talk about that very often.
I do not.
You were trying to talk about it earlier, but we cut you off.
Yeah. I was going to say, when you write songs that are like written and performed by you, like it feels very personal, especially if you feel like you want to write about anything that comes from your own life. Like, at least for me, I obviously there are a lot of people who don't have this problem and they just write songs and it's fine. But
Miley
like,
Cyrus.
I definitely, yes, I definitely constantly have this problem when I'm writing, when I'm like creating things that are fully created by me, unless they're like inherently disclaimed by something, right? Like
Mhm.
writing a Goofy Out of Thumb song immediately comes with the disclaimer of like, this is not really exposing any of myself.
Right. It's
You know
almost
what I
like
mean?
work for hire in the way that you can
yeah.
distance yourself from it.
Yeah,
Even though you
exactly.
care.
There's
Yeah.
right. No, I totally care about making
Yeah.
it good and like trying to make it like entertaining and high quality and like interesting in some way.
But
I'm
novelty
distanced-
songs are prefaced with the word novelty.
Do you mean,
Exactly.
the,
Like,
you mean the vinyl
it's-
record that has arrived at many people's
Oh, yeah,
homes this
totally.
week is not full of your soul?
It's full of a part of my soul, right? But it's not full of
The
my like.
shell.
It's the difference. The difference is it's not really.
Sell out.
It's full of relatively little of my personal lived experience as a human being.
As
Right?
a space asshole.
It's
Remember that time when you were pissed about Castlevania not being an exclusive?
That's true.
So you wrote that song from your perspective?
It's full of some guy's lived experience. That's for sure. Some guy on joystick. I think it was a joystick comment, maybe. But anyway, the thing I mean is that when you make things that are like creative works that have something in them that feels personal to you, there's an instinct, at least there's an instinct for me, and I feel this when I play certain indie games. There's an instinct to obscure it somehow, and oftentimes the way that comes through in a way that is like feels like it's not being withholding for that reason is to be withholding for like coolness reasons.
It's fun, I would have the exact same criticism about Kentucky Route Zero.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Where it's just like,
Yeah.
just tell me the fucking story that you have in your heart,
Right.
Because you clearly want to.
Yeah, no, that's how I feel, and it makes it kind of makes me harder on those games a little bit because I recognize that instinct, but don't really respect it.
God, it's so funny you
'cause I
articulate
know-
it that way. I would not have been able to do that, but that is very.
It's because it's an experience I've had a lot. It's one of the reasons I like working on games with teams of people. Is it's so much easier to be part of something and feel like you're putting yourself into it, but then not be on display.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's so hard to. It's for me. Like it's hard for me to be like, yep, this is the thing that came out of my soul. Check, fucking have at it. Like
I could never say that, but when it's actually making the stuff, I never think about it ever being consumed.
yeah, well, you're probably just better at it than I am.
No, I think there's just a nullness to it. There's just like a numbness to like
Sure.
the fact that there's ever an audience.
Yeah, I do think with like when one person is making the entire thing, it's different. I think if you were going to go out and like write a short story that's just by Sean Vanaman,
Oh
and
yeah,
like,
I went to college.
well,
I
right,
got
yeah,
embarrassed
that
in those fucking yeah,
So-
that's embarrassing.
So you at least know the feeling.
Yeah,
like,
I remember
right?
writing a story that didn't land. It was super duper duper personal.
Yeah.
In like an advanced workshop, and just feeling like a chump.
But then the next one you did was like a super cool, like aloof take on similar themes.
The next thing, it was about kids, playing.
Was it a super cool
cowboys
aloof
and
take?
Indians in a surreal forest, being hunted by a monster that was actually.
God, I can't tell if you're kidding.
It is actually
No, I'm making all that up.
It's an indie game he's talking about.
Yeah, but I mean, it's funny because
But that could be the exact response to that experience.
When I I'd never been in workshops before, and when the first short story I wrote was like based on a story that a friend had told me about growing up in his life about trying to find an open 7-Eleven or something, and I was really chuffed by the story, so just imagined it as if it was me and my friends Adam growing up in Wyoming, and wrote this like really like it could have basically been like a treatment for super bad, which is like just gonna try to get to a party,
Yeah.
you know, or whatever. And it was so like just benign. It was just a you know, of a story.
Yeah, no teeth.
Yeah, it was nothing. It was a nothing thing. And like I remember my teacher fucking called me on it. She was like, "What is this? Like this is nothing. This is just there's Yakuza in this story." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." Like in my hometown of Wyoming. I was 18. I didn't know what I was writing.
Sure. Yeah.
You know. So like that was one way of failure. So then your response to that is be like, "Oh, you want personal? Here's about this fucking time where the worst thing ever happened to me when I was 16." And then you put it out there and it doesn't land because you don't have the tools to
you can't back it up
to deliver it, right? Like doesn't mean the story was bad, but it means like you just didn't have the fucking chops. Exactly right. Chops. So then that fails and then you're just miserable for 2 years of college or 3 years of college until you fucking figure it out.
Yeah.
I still don't feel like I have the chops. Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I definitely don't. But like but despite my like sympathy for that situation, I still find also I'm like maybe that's not why these games end up that way, but it does seem to be a common thread in like indie games of a certain aesthetic is this like very distanced, very withholding, very overtly emotional, but not actually really about anything.
Because there's a moment in Monument Valley that's outside of the cut scene, like where you talk to the ethereal spirit lady. There's a scene where you complete a level, and your ability to complete the level was tied to like essentially a block that was a creature that helps you out.
Yeah,
you
the totem.
You move
fun.
them in concert together to complete the level. And then as you're leaving the level, like she's separated from the totem, and the totem can't come with you. And the way that moment was actually illustrated, I thought was fucking awesome. I really liked that. Was my favorite moment of the game. But then the rest of the game didn't feel like that to me. It felt like it wanted it to be that moment, and they executed on that one moment, and then we're trying to tell you about all these other moments that were going to happen through text. It didn't seem to. I don't know.
Yeah, there are people for whom the story of this game is hitting really hard. There are people who are emotionally affected by this thing. But for me, I think just like you guys, I kind of wished that none of the explicit content had been in the game at all, and it was just this sort of weird tone experience that had the one story of you meeting and getting separated from the totem, and then the stuff that happens at the end. Yeah. And
it's like
it's sort of like it's the pairing of two really abstract things, right? It's a very abstract aesthetic with this abstract story that creates sort of like a zero for me. But if
Limbo Limbo could have gone this route had it had words in it.
Right. Absolutely. Limbo's an example to me of like sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was actually going to compare him to like the Ico games.
Totally. Yeah, those are great.
You know, like I feel like Ico and Shadow of the Colossus are both live in that same sort of like surrealist dream space.
Absolutely.
But the represented is real as they're a little stylized, obviously, but like the kid from the Shadow of the Colossus and that horse look fucking real. Like they just feel like real people. They have weight and they have a relationship and they act and twitch and they sort of have all the little minutia of things that are alive. And then the story can then be this sort of surrealist parable that when those two things come together feels like it has like a big
Journey
impact.
Is stylized and has nothing realistic about it, and
I would almost classify Journey in the same fucking camp as these games, except Journey just executes so well. I got blinded by how good it was. And also the network.
I think Flower is the one that goes in that camp.
Right.
Flower is the one that to me has this like very overt weird like I guess it's like an environmental message or something. I don't know.
I was just so blown away by the execution and then the network stuff of Journey. Of running into
totally.
That
stuff is fantastic.
You know, that stuff was outside of the explicit narrative to me.
I
thought Journey might have like skirted the line a bit, but I think it totally landed on the right side of it.
Yeah.
The thing that I guess for me the difference is that Journey and Limbo and Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, none of those games have a moment inside of the game where the game explicitly says, this is how you should contextualize this. This is how you should specifically feel about this. This is the actual tone of what's going on.
You mean, when you say that, do you just mean...
I literally...
Like they do have those moments. Do you just mean like through dialogue?
Like, they do and they don't, right?
Because Shadow of the Colossus starts out with a fucking cutscene with dialogue, with subtitles.
Yeah. And I also don't like that part of Shadow of the Colossus.
Not really, I didn't mind that.
But
I feel like it needed to be framed.
Like, Sword and Sorcery is a cool game, except when someone talks and then you just go, oh, what this is actually about?
Yeah.
Whereas Journey, you could play that game in a vacuum completely separate from all culture that's going on right now, and I think that it would be an affecting experience for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But if like a wacky dude smoking a cigarette comes out and like slips in and out of affected speech and like
Or if you got to the top of the
and
mountain
stuff,
and like a monster said like, he who comes forth and on the draft or whatever, or like whatever, you'd be like, well,
yeah, I don't know.
Fucking say your thing. Like, what? Why do you have to talk to me? Because Journeys, like, feels like you do go on this journey, but nobody speaks the whole time except in like bits and bobs.
yeah, Journey feels huge without having to tell you anything.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, that it's a weird thing to fixate on.
For sure. This is not a reason not to play Monument Valley.
No, fucking play the game for sure.
But the only reason I wanted to talk about it is because it's something that keeps recurring for me with a number of games, almost to the point where if I see a screenshot of it and it has a certain polish level, I can almost just assume it's going to be like this, and then the game would have to just indicate otherwise when I play it, because it does seem to go along with like highly polished, highly stylized and stylish small scale games.
But you know, counter what where the game that could have been that, but you don't think about it because you're too close to it, was fucking Broken Age. Broken Age
really?
and its aesthetic and its surrealness.
Broken Age is a literal story, though.
I know, but then it has this like concrete story with people saying real things to each other that I can like relate to as a human.
I was genuinely worried when the art for Broken Age and the early stuff came out where there was no dialogue.
I was like, did Tim really like Sword and Sorcery?
Right, because, like, yeah, I'm sure it's partly because Tim hadn't written the script, actors hadn't been cast, but like it was just this like tinkly music and indie comic book, super lanky characters sort of doing things in beautiful,
like, the clouds.
beautiful contextless spaces, and I was like, yeah,
what the fuck?
Am I gonna get? Because Tim was talking about like in the videos like how he loves Machinarium, which is not like this at all.
Right.
But you could see a game
It's a
with
version of it that is
you
that.
could see a game with the sparseness of that, and then trying to stitch a little bit of story into it, like a little bit of explicit dialogue based narrative. But Broken Age turns out to just be a crazy hand painted
because
cartoon.
they talk and live and react like us.
But it's thematically about
mean?
some of the same stuff that a lot of these games are about. It's interesting.
Yeah, but I feel like it's digestible.
Head on, though.
It deals with it exactly head on through like the emotions and like experiences of a living contemporary person.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like coming of age tale is like sort of in the zeitgeist right now. It's just that it generally it's frequently in games tackled in this like weirdly tame way that is like aggressively.
That's actually why I didn't like Moonrise Kingdom. Moonrise Kingdom was the same sort of like I don't know. I love Wes Anderson, but that had that sort of emotionally distancing coming of age story where like it makes it feel like the experience of coming of age is this sort of like distant dream for which we all have nostalgia. Where I'm like, I don't know. It's actually just sort of like it's a mess. It's like a guy in a wheelchair falling down stairs.
There
It's
are
just
parts
clunky
of it
and painful.
Well, there totally are parts of it that, in retrospect, I do think feel like dreamlike and weird. But it's definitely like that is one component. That is not the like. It's a weird part to be so fixated on in media currently, because I don't think it's not good as an entire representation of that like sensation.
It's funny that you brought up Moonrise Kingdom. I don't have anything to say about it other than I agree. I think that movie is at its best when it is explicit and messy, which is only in like 2 30-second bursts in that movie.
Not enough.
I know. Anyway.
Which is why I like Grand Budapest.
Like
because sometimes people
that
say...
just wipes the slate clean.
I mean,
still, it's crazy. But somebody looks somebody else in the eyeballs and says something, and you see that person react like a human being. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that movie is pretty distant as well. It's just knows it better, I think. Right? Yeah. But Grand Budapest
that means
Hotel
that the occasional like pinprick of light that comes through is also very conscious.
Sure, yeah.
But,
You guys want to take a break?
I would love to take a break.
It's fine.
What do you have to say? What? Just say what you're going to say.
I'm done with these subjects. I just want to keep talking.
It's your
take a
break.
You know what? It's my and it's time for a break.
It's time for a break.
Yeah.
Video games.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at NatureBox. you can go to naturebox.com/thumbs.
Yeah,
and-
get 50% off your first month.
which is a deal. A very, very good deal.
We can talk about this. We should explain who.
Well, Nature Box is they will send delicious and nutritious snacks to your home or office on sort of a subscription basis. And you can choose the snacks that you want in your pack, and you can get 3 different sizes of packs, and they will just arrive and be
I thought you said you can get chews like
I was gonna say,
CHEWS.
you can get chews, you can get crunchies, you can get savories,
Blueberry nom
you can
noms.
get blueberry nom noms. I actually really like the blueberry.
I feel
nom
like we
noms.
were accidentally sent blueberry nom noms.
It's because you said the
you
word
enjoyed
blueberry.
to nom
No.
them. I didn't say the fucking word blueberry nom nom. Maybe I did. Maybe I did just outrageously say it the way I just said it just now when I was reading
I
their
just
website.
saw you have a Manchurian candidate moment when you said, I didn't say blueberry nom.
A camera
nom."
like spiraled through
Yeah.
the rifling of your eye into
You
your
went
brain
fucking
just now.
full
Yeah.
vertigo eye.
Yeah.
But
But he better than that. I mean,
even better than the facts that I
yeah, obviously you
delivered.
nommed those noms, but
I really like those actually. They were
Yeah.
like little granola chews.
yeah, but separate to that, much more importantly to me, we were sent an actual Idle Thumbs P box after proposing such a box last week,
That's 'cause the-
including
Some of them are chickpeas,
Yeah.
citrus chipotle chickpeas, peppery chickpeas. I'm not going to read those ones yet. Let's see here. Oh, it's pretzel pop. Got a lot of pretzel pops in this pea box.
they
Because
sent us anything round.
Mandarin
basically.
garlic peas.
Oh my god, the mandarin garlic peas.
Roasted sea salt chickpeas. Country ranch peas. Smoky barbecue peas.
Yeah.
Blueberry nom noms.
Yep. Then I would say honorary peas are the seaweed. What is it? Seaweed rice pops or something?
yeah.
Those were
right there.
Oh,
delicious.
seaweed rice pops. Yeah.
God, those
like,
are good.
Because you like them,
pea-shaped.
they're entered into the pea family.
No, you look at them and they're about the same size.
Yeah,
and
it's
shape
the
of a
form
pea.
factor,
Yeah.
and that's the one thing that's so impressive about our friends at Nature Box is that they heard Chris like they picked up on the fact that it wasn't just. I mean,
like-
the pea
it's like
is
when you're
the pea
playtesting
is
a-
the benchmark, but if something is the size and shape
It's like
and
when
sort
you're
of texture of
playtesting
a
a video
pea,
game, yeah, and you hear feedback that's like,
I
just
like
really
the
didn't this,
peas.
and I think it should be like that. I like the peas, and you're like, I think what you really like is the tactile feeling
like
of
a
engaging
round,
with
crunchy
like round objects,
unit,
like,
like an atomic.
yeah,
bite.
No, I'm pretty sure it's the peas. Meanwhile,
yeah,
whatever.
seaweed rice pops.
You're like, oh, this is
it's
like
delicious.
peas
It's
to
like
me.
Peas, I love it.
Checks the pea box.
Anyway, naturebox.com/thumbs. It'll really check your pea box.
So we have a second sponsor this week, and they're our friends at Brave Wave. Brave Wave is a video game music label that does a lot of like interesting things with video game music, and they facilitate sort of their most recent album Influx is sort of they've facilitated sort of partnerships across like multiple video game cultural boundaries to bring people together to make individual songs.
Yeah, like Japanese artists and also Western artists. Like in many cases, collaborating on the same tracks, which is cool.
Last time they were a sponsor, you played a song that you liked very much,
From Jim Guthrie.
and right now you're going to hear.
Oh, it was Jim Guthrie and what is it? Yamaoka. What is it? Akira Yamaoka, who did Silent Hill. Like,
Yeah.
those guys are both awesome.
which is kind of an amazing.
Yeah, it's a crazy like
Pair.
mashup. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I want you to play the song that I like the most from this album, which you're going to hear right now. So that track was called Manta Ray by the Polar Birds. They're from France, and you can
And there's
get
3 of
that-
them.
There's 3 of them. They're a French trio,
Yeah.
not dissimilar of the Three Musketeers.
There's 4 of them, so
Huh.
the weirdly named.
That's confusing. Is that true?
Well, if you include D'Artagnan, there's 4 of them.
I don't.
That's fine.
Okay. So this month, Brave Wave is actually offering 10% off for Idle Thumbs readers. You can go to store.bravewave.net and use the checkout code video games, all one word.
Yeah, fine. It's fine. It's fine. One word.
It's a slight oversight from our friends. All one word video games. Again, you go to store.bravewave.net, 10% off anything you want of theirs with the discount code video games.
Maybe their discount code system like doesn't support spaces, so they had to
It probably
turn it
doesn't.
into a compound word.
Yeah. Did I tell you the first document we ever got from our lawyer had video game spelled as one word the whole way through it?
Did you ask me to change it?
I went through and changed every single fucking instance.
I won't sign this.
and sent it back. Yeah. Anyway. Video games. And we're back.
Oh my god, are we back?
Okay, we're back, and since we just talked about this in the ad read, I kind of want to talk about it for real.
What?
Video games?
Video games, one word or two word. Why does anyone care besides it's hilarious?
I think
Are you
it's
asking
because
a
I think
question right
language
now?
is important.
That's okay. That doesn't mean anything.
Well, why do you?
Continue.
Why do you care?
My reason is dumb, but it's because
I don't believe
when
it.
people started to compound video games into one word, it was because it was an attempt. It was like a response to feeling slighted and marginalized. Like video games are just kid games, but we make lowercase video games, one word.
It's a new thing.
Yeah, and to me, it's
I agree.
It's a shitty thing, but it's just like if the thing that we make is known as video games, we should collectively define what those are instead of abandoning that word and for Lost and make a shittier word instead. That's why I like video games as two words.
I agree.
All right, just making sure.
Also, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. Also, it's fucking funny to just be militant about there being a
Yeah.
space in the word video games.
Yeah.
Language is important, though.
No, I agree.
Oh.
You just described why language is important.
Oh, maybe I did.
Maybe you did.
Video games.
Video game.
How is that video game that you played?
Which
The downloadable content of the BioShock Infinite game.
I only played the first half.
Did Chris complete
played the
all of it?
Chris played the second half.
So those are. It's worth clarifying. Those are two different DLCs.
Yes,
Like there's
Burial at Sea.
Burial at Sea,
BioShock
like
Infinite,
Act
Burial
1
at
and
Sea, episode 1,
episode 1
2.
and episode 2. Yeah.
What, Ken Levine can't count the three? Oh!
Jesus. Wow.
I know that's
That's not a joke we make.
That's fine.
BioShock 1, 2, Infinite. What's up? Burial at Sea, episode 1, 2. Company goes out of business. Everyone laid off. What's up? Can't ship 3. Sorry, that was me as a character, so I can get off the hook. That's not my actual opinion. That was sort of like,
Yeah, it was Jake Video Games Rodkin podcast character.
Yeah. That was video games is one word. Video games is two words. Would never
say such a thing.
something like that. Woof. I want to hear what you have to say about it first because episode 1, I played it, and I haven't played episode 2 because although it was like, it was the reminder that I actually like the BioShock series because of a lot of the tonal stuff in Rapture, as well as the sort of specific mechanical choices of BioShock 1. So I played Burial at Sea Chapter 1 because I wanted to just get another like bite at Rapture. But the structure of Burial at Sea Episode 1 was so similar to Infinite that I was put off by it. And I actually don't think I beat, like, I think I got like 20 to 30, not 20, 30 minutes. The whole game's 90 minutes long. I was clearly minutes from the end. Like I was on the ramp down to the finale of it, and I put it down, and I never picked it up and completed it. But it was because like I finally got to see pre-fall Rapture. I finally got to see all the things that had been alluded to forever. And then the moment that my gun came out, every piece of personality in it was replaced with a splicer or a police officer who I shot in the face. And it was infuriating. And I kept playing through it because it was like, oh, cool. I can see like whoever Fontaine or, I can see all like, I can talk to all these faces and hear all these names and the sounds and colors that I like.
And the reason that was frustrating to you relative to BioShock 1 is because the promise of it to you was that this was BioShock before it was just like a war-torn shithole.
I guess I'd just,
Rapture.
I wanted something that wasn't there, but like, it felt like it was awkwardly splitting the difference between so many things that I didn't get anything out of it that I was looking for other than those first few minutes. But it sounded like the second episode of Burial at Sea like you're playing as Elizabeth, which is different. The game has
Yeah.
They're trying to push some of the encounter design to be a different specific thing. Even like I don't know. I wanted to hear.
Yeah. I have really mixed feelings on Burial at Sea episode 2, and when I say that, I don't mean in the same way I usually mean by mixed feelings, which is like things wrapped up in each other. It's more like suddenly the game almost becomes a different game, and I have different feelings about it than I do in the first part, most of it. So I liked Burial at Sea episode 2. Although I will say up front to you, Jake, that it doesn't like radically depart from the things you're talking about, in the sense that like you still just encounter a bunch of splicers who are explicitly enemies, and that's just how it is. But you also, this game did a thing that I kind of like in games, actually, which might sound weird given how I often talk about games, but I kind of like that Burial at Sea, it's kind of simultaneously ambitious and unambitious. Like, it's super ambitious in that it's a DLC for a game that already exists, and they swap out the main character, and they introduce a bunch of new systems, and it's a totally different environment than the game that it's a DLC for was, as was episode 1. Like, it's ridiculously ambitious in a lot of ways, which is impressive because they had to recreate all that Rapture shit because they couldn't just use stuff from BioShock 1, both because it's displaying a different Rapture and also the assets are just not nearly...
They're old.
They're just old. They're not sufficient for a current generation like AAA game. And so that's ridiculously ambitious, and that stuff all worked really well for me for the most part. And it's also unambitious in the ways that it is trying... Like, that game has like stealth systems, and it's kind of just fundamentally unambitious as a stealth game. And I also approve of that. Like, I think that is also the total way to go, because I think, like, I played it on easy just because, and playing that game on easy with the stealth systems that they put in it as Elizabeth, it just doesn't get in your way. It's like, which is exactly, in my opinion, like exactly the right way to go. Like, if
I think it was just there more for feeling than for...
Yeah, it's there to just communicate. You're trying to be less of just a crazy whirling dervish, just exploding your way through this world and wreaking havoc.
Is whirling
on everything
dervish
you
a
see.
tonic or plasmid also? Because
It should be. It sounds like one. You know what I mean? Like, a big problem with a lot of stealth parts in games, or with like half-baked stealth systems, is just because of the nature of stealth. When it's not done really well, it's infuriating. Like, it's the worst. You fail all the time in ways that are like that sort of are like hair trigger failures, and like things are just it's very frustrating. It's very trial and error. And they just kind of said, you know what, like there's just some simple stealth systems. I'm sure it's still a pain in the ass to like make it all work within their existing game system, but the result is very approachable. And I think it was like a relief to play, like you play Infinite and it can be really stressful, which is in itself not a bad thing inherently, but it was nice to play this and be like, all right, I'm playing this other character. I'm not like Booker, this crazy just agent of constant destruction. It was like a relief. That's kind of just how it felt to me. And it was also, I shared the thing. Well, I don't know if you ended up liking it or not in the game, but I did like seeing Rapture rendered at like current technology levels in real time in the game. Like, I thought it was really cool. You're making a face. What did you feel?
I have mixed feelings on that, but I'm unfortunately fixated on the whirling dervish plasmid, or I guess a BioShock Infinite tonic, where a whirling dervish tonic is only able to be consumed in the midst of an action sequence when the music is at its height.
Yeah.
And what the whirling dervish tonic does is turns the game into a third-person game so you can see what a crazy fuck you're being.
Oh no, that's the worst.
It just shows you flipping weapons around covered in the blood of 800 police officers.
Yeah.
And then when it's over, it cuts back in and there's just a little sweat on the screen that you can wipe away like Metro. I thought it was cool to see Rapture high res, but it felt like fan art to me.
Yeah, okay, so I want to talk about that because that is
like, but the thing that
super relevant to the... Go ahead, continue.
If you've got other stuff to say, go ahead.
No, keep talking.
There's like one of the most evocative BioShock images. I had to look it up because I couldn't remember the artist's name. It was a thing that 2K put out as promotional art for BioShock 2. They had like the BioShock artist series where they had like I think the guy who made Invader Zim drew a really weird
John
cartoony
Vasquez
thing.
and stuff, yeah. I remember that.
The Penny
Like
Arcade guys
Shepard
did
Fairey
one.
did one or something.
Yeah, Shepard Fairey did
like,
one. But there's an artist named Craig Mullen who did a piece called 1959. That's this painting of the Rapture 1959 New Year's Ball, and the way it's composed, it's like this really kind of awkwardly framed shot, but still ends up looking really graceful because at the base of it, like it's looking over a multi-tiered balcony, and you see people dancing, and they're sort of just these like painterly abstract figures, and then the metal framework of Rapture goes up, and you can just see the city going off into the distance, but everything's lit up, and it still has the formidable feeling of BioShock 1, like everything still feels very industrial, but it also feels really beautiful and evocative. And that image to me, like better than anything else, encapsulated the feeling in my brain of what Rapture aspires to, sort of as an aesthetic and as a place that people would want to live. But BioShock Infinite, everything felt like it had just like been hit by like a Looney Tunes bicycle pump. Like,
are you talking about Columbia, or are you talking about the Rapture of the DLC?
I'm talking about Rapture in the DLC.
Okay.
It's
just clarifying.
With Columbia, that actually felt okay because it was a like dreamlike flying city in the clouds. But then going back into Rapture in Burial at Sea, it just felt like it lost its edge. Like literally, it felt like everything actually just was like 10% more Toontown. Like the scale of stuff didn't feel real. The lighting had all of the very soft, smooth feelings. So, like it was cool to see everything up-resed. But it also felt like it was up-resed by like, but through a prism that was off by 30 degrees. Maybe you're in an alternate reality of Rapture. Maybe you went through a rip to a more well-lit...
A tear?
A tear. I don't know.
That was a rip.
That was tough because I don't know how to even talk about it. I'm a dorky Rapture fanboy.
Rapture historian, Jake.
I'm not a Rapture historian, but it's like the same. Like
I appreciate what you're saying.
The world building of BioShock Infinite, of BioShock 1 and of both Half-Life games, like just buried themselves just deep inside of my soul and like aesthetic brain in a way that few things have. And that's why I was so excited that they were going to do I think I talked about it on the podcast when Rapture shows up at the end of Infinite, I was kind of disappointed that it looked like they literally copy and pasted assets out of BioShock 1, because when I knew that the game was going, I was like, okay, cool, we're going to see a slightly different take on this from this team. And then when they actually delivered that, it just didn't quite ring true to me.
What's funny, but then when they reinterpreted it for the DLC.
That's what I mean. That's when like I got. They gave me what I asked for, but it was not what I wanted.
Okay, that's the point you're making.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So basically, you just want to be conked in the head and not have played BioShock 1 before, and then replay it for the first time ever. I feel that way with that game.
Yeah,
I was fucking happy playing that game the entire time. At the end, I wasn't.
After that orphanage, you're not quite as happy, but
I was okay with it.
Whatever. The experience of first playing that game is definitely special. But I was less, I guess, explicitly conscious of that, Jake. Like I know what you're saying.
I think I was looking for a very specific thing. And
that's fair. That was less.
I'm a dorky fan. What are you
gonna
do?
I mean, whatever. Like that's how you reacted to it. That's fine. Like I was less, I guess, struck by that. But on a like weirdly parallel note, the game becomes really weird in like the final. It was a few hours long. It was definitely sounds like it was longer than the first episode.
The first episode was very short.
Yeah, which was nice. You know that it was substantial, but it goes to a weird place where like the final act of the game ends up becoming the craziest, most bafflingly
so it defeats
comprehensive
Infinite's main campaign for insanity
in a totally different way. It's a different thing. Like this game takes all like it comprehensively, like beat by beat, goes through all the story points of BioShock 1 and like explains them or ties them into the like Infinite universe. Like
the end of the DLC retcons all of BioShock 1's story.
Yeah. like in a thorough way, to the point where even moments that whose meaning and context was obvious in BioShock 1, like moments of environmental storytelling, like Suchong being, you find his corpse and there's like a Big Daddy drill in it, and it's like he was doing experiments on Little Sister and Big Daddy pairing. It's like, this is very obvious what basically happened here. That is like, even that moment where you completely could have pieced it together yourself is like note for note, like explicitly spelled out.
Okay, but
it's strange
the
choice.
thing that was obvious was still told as the obvious thing, though. It wasn't like, oh, it turns out that what actually happened is a Big Daddy drill came in through a tear from another reality and killed him.
No.
Okay.
It doesn't ever do with anything like that. It doesn't like, it does things that if you have swallowed the BioShock game's story so far, it's not going to be like outside of the realm of possibility. It's just weird. Like, they go through every single important, like everything that happens. It's like, it's strange.
So they talk about Sophia Lamb.
There's a
and
parlor
the
room scene where
I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, BioShock 2 is not.
God, if it ended a parlor scene, that would be amazing.
here, the body of Dr. Suchong. What happened here, you may have asked.
No, fuck that. You end it by walking through a tear, and the parlor room scene takes place over Andrew Ryan's corpse in his office. Oh my god. That'd be fine. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, I want you to have
Struck by a golf club, perhaps.
From you. Oh, no, you're playing as a lady right now.
Someone like you, though.
Oh man, they go. Oh, God, I can't say the things that they talk about because it is the most spoilery shit ever. But it goes.
Can we just put a
it goes
note
so
right
much
here?
further than you think. Like, it's
Can we just say right now we're going to spoil this content?
no, because I don't want to. I don't want to actually.
Oh my god. Okay. Well, we have to talk
We'll do
about it
off the
sometime.
podcast, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Off the podcast. That's fine.
Maybe later, right? I don't know. If people have a
The 1 year anniversary of Buried at Sea.
we can.
We'll reveal the killer.
Okay, I don't know. We can. I'm fine with bringing it up again, like next week or whatever
No,
we
it's
want.
fine.
But like, no, I'm fine with it. I just want to talk to someone about it first to know if you think it's a good idea to do so. That's all I'm saying.
I'm sure that it is.
Okay, well, whatever. In any case, it was crazy. It was surprising as hell. It was super weird, and that is the.
It was crazy. It was surprising as hell. It was super weird. You were your own like montage
Yeah, you
trailer.
were three kids in like
It's the commercial.
who
It's the
witnessed
kids outside
like
of
a
the-
crime and came running back to their
Whip
older
hand, like,
brother.
to each of them,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what all of you had like weird spiky kids haircuts like from the man who wasn't there, and it was just a
there
montage
was
in a
like
Coen Brothers
there
movie.
was the Blondie, Freckles, and glasses
Yeah.
all
Yep.
just in a row right there.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's just hard for me to talk
Freckles and
about
glasses.
because of how it just kept topping itself. It's this probably wasn't intentional when this DLC was pitched, but it was definitely known by the time the DLC was finished. Like, that was the last thing Irrational will have ever made, like in history.
But when they found that out, there was no way they could have changed the content to like be a
No,
little more.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it doesn't matter. Like,
But it would be
whether or not they
was-
knew when they started, when they ended it, they're like, "Wow, this is what we're ending with."
yeah,
Like
it's like I know. Okay, I know this is in all likelihood not the case, but you can't. It's hard to play it knowing what happened to that studio and not feel like it's just like this is our last chance to ever address any of this stuff. So every single little bit of it is going in here now. But to play it, I don't feel like any of it needed to be
That's weird though, because
addressed.
sometimes when TV shows get
in fact,
canceled,
I think
they actually
BioShock
do
1
that.
addressed more than it needed to inside of its own text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, what, Jake?
Oh, I said it makes me wonder if they did become aware of that, because that move is what lore-heavy television shows and comic series do
Like
when they're getting
Arrested
canceled.
Development did that.
Arrested
Yeah.
Development found out halfway through the season they weren't coming back, but
And then-
but they didn't do a lore dump.
They started like bringing
It's-
stuff
it's
together
like-
and bringing people back and all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. It's so painful to watch.
Yeah,
It's so painful. You just want to shh.
Arrested Development.
Remember a better time.
It's not worth even trying to suppose as to what actually
Right.
happened.
No,
but-
I'm not trying to do that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying the experience.
It's
of
impossible
playing
to
it-
not read it that
Yeah,
way because
yeah.
of
Or at least to not think
social,
about it.
like is of historical fact.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just I would love to talk about it with you guys if you've I want you to have seen it to be able to talk about it.
Maybe I'll play it.
It's just fascinating. It's a strange choice that someone made. And and I don't know. Like, it makes me wonder and this is probably something that almost no one in the world can answer right now, because I'm sure these discussions are happening like at all kinds of levels within Take-Two, the larger publisher. But like, it makes me wonder, like, what is the plan for BioShock in the future? Like, this feels like such a...
If it spins that far out, though, they can just, like, tuck something new in underneath all of that. And that doesn't have to
It
exist.
seems like the opposite, though. It's sort of like the wet bandits. You got to just sort of like flood everything and walk out so nobody can come salvage this or whatever.
It's weird because part of the ending of Infinite is like this stuff infinitely ripples. Like, that's why it's called BioShock Infinite. Like, there is no one thread here. Like, it could be anything, and it's still it's not like any of that's different after the end of Burial at Sea Part 2. It's like that's still technically true, except that they like really doubled down on being like, these two specific ones are fully intertwined. Like fully intertwined.
Not that one on a space station you're going to play in 3 years.
Right, and not BioShock 2, for example. Like, it's really like just doubling down on the two irrational created BioShocks. Like, that's what this story is about. That's what it feels like, kind of. It's weird. But like, fictionally, there still is all that other just multiverse stuff.
Fictionally, Moonshock is real.
They could still just make another BioShock.
So.
They could easily still just make another BioShock game and have it be totally consistent with the end of Infinite, like whatever.
It's so funny. I was listening to Brendan and Steve on Tone Control talk about the world, like when Steve. It's the thing that ended up on like Polygon or whatever about Steve being like,
I'm sorry. Before you get into that, can I just one more thing I liked about the Burial at Sea, despite my like weird mixed feelings about it overall. You go to Columbia in it, and it's really nice because it isn't saddled with all of the like really. You know, like, regardless of how you feel about Infinite, like, that game tackles a bunch of stuff that, like, I don't want to rehash it because we already talked about that game a bunch, like, back when it came out. But, like, it's kind of nice to be able to play that, to, like, go to that visually beautifully realized world and just kind of dip into it and then go out again. Like, it was also kind of a relief. Like, I talked about playing as Elizabeth and having like focus on combat really toned down. Like, that was like a relief to me. And then also getting to just like dip your toe into Columbia and like you're in this underwater crazy confined space, and then you like burst out into Columbia for a bit and you have like a little escapade there, and then you go back, and that felt like a really good reason for like change, like just pace wise, like for the change in the art direction in this. And it just you didn't have to be mired in all the stuff that Infinite is mired in. But anyway, so go ahead, Sean.
Oh no, it's the moment it's past.
Oh fuck, I'm sorry.
No, because I wasn't gonna say anything good. Like, now I'll fucking say it because I gotta fill the air. So Steve and Brendan on Tone Control, Brendan Chung, who made Flotilla and 30 Flights of Living and Adam Zombie Smasher and the upcoming Quadrilateral Cowboy. And
Gravity Bone.
Talked to Steve on his podcast, Tone Control.
Tone Control at idlethumbs.net/Tone Control.
Good. So they were talking about, Steve brought up, they were talking about just sort of disparate worlds from video games actually being set in the same universe, and how they sort of like love that shit. And then Steve went off on his tear about how, like, technically in a totally non-litigious way, Gone Home is sort of in the System Shock BioShock universe, and how he talked about how like the computer system in Minerva's Den is called Rodan and blah blah blah, it stands for this, stands for that, blah, blah. Then the what is it, Shodan and System Shock, is that right? The system, how all these things connect, and they like unpack all of it, and it's really fun to listen to Steve and Brendan talk about it. And at the end of it, I was like, man, I think they converted me. Like, I think I'm maybe into like really well done, like
just goofy
thoughtful,
metaverse stuff.
Goofy metaverse. But
there's a way to do that though. Like,
but this is the dark side of it. I feel like when people start to like sacrifice the quality of their entertainment experience to like package it all together to say like, here it is, it's all packaged up now. Like, it feels like and then it reminds me why I hate this shit. Because
the difference between the way Brendan does it and the way like a modern kind of like $1 million franchise does it is that in Brendan's games.
Well, I'm not talking about Brendan's games actually.
No,
like I was more talking about like, but Brendan is wholly responsible. You know, he is wholly.
Yeah.
Like there's not even another person on his team who can be like, well, I actually added this thing to a level to make these two things connect. Like
there is technically now, but I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? Though.
He has full control.
Right. Whereas I feel like with this stuff, because of the scope of the product, it's not. So it's all these people working together. And then sometimes all of that works in concert to like codify a canon for no particular reason other than to codify it in a way that makes one or two people in the world, generally at the top of the creative chain, satisfied, or people in the middle who like get away with it. And like that's the stuff that I'm just like fucking tired of. Like, ugh, it drives me bonkers.
No, totally.
But like Brendan's thing is completely different. Brendan's thing is like more.
So
of,
what
like,
was it about?
So what's the
what was
thing
it about
that you're
Steve's?
converted
Yeah,
to,
you
then?
you said here's something I hate. Here's something that's totally different.
Because they were talking about. It was just really exciting. It was like it was intoxicating to listen to Steve talk about System Shock and BioShock in his games, and like the like revelry they had for like, or the way that they revered the creative content of games that had come before, and how they're paying homage to it, the games that they were making now, or like Steve, I should say, was making now. And Brendan was super into it. He's like, Steve, I love that you are into this shit because I'm into it too. But Brendan was just saying he's into it as a consumer, not necessarily as a creator. I think he probably thinks of his stuff as it doesn't matter. But this is completely in like the System Shock BioShock frame here.
I have mixed feelings about it.
And I got kind of like excited by the way they were talking about it. And then like sort of like had a whole moment while you were talking about it here. And I'm like, no, I fucking hate this shit still. Sorry. Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
I think it's fine if Steve it's totally fine if Steve just like gets jazzed about that. But
the way they were jazzed about it was so honest, and I really appreciated it.
And that's rad. But it's not like a compelling thought to me that Gone Home is actually in the same universe as System Shock. Like that's
I also don't think that Steve thinks about it that literally.
No, I know he does. I know that.
Right.
It's making I think.
The reason that I wanted the reason when you mentioned fan art, and you meant it in a different way than what I mean now, but it's relevant still. When you mentioned the version of BioShock you saw in Buriality, I can't say that word apparently anymore, reminding you of like sort of a weird, like slightly off fan art version. That's kind of how I felt when all that with just the lore explosion at the end of episode 2, because it felt like the kind of thing that people who write fan fiction love the most. You know, which is like these universes are colliding and like, oh my God, it's Elizabeth and she's in Rapture. Like,
right, I love why would this happen and then this happen? Oh, it must be because this, and this.
Day, these two people were in the same room and they both saw this thing happen. And like, oh my God, that would explain so much in this theoretical like version of reality where these two things are actually the same. Like, and I don't really like that kind of thing, I guess.
I don't like it because it draws attention away from the actual like thing that was being said in the individual text themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Like it feels like a side circus event. Like it feels like a sideshow. Like it's
right.
It doesn't feel like the actual thing what the thing was supposed to be about in the first place. Because almost all crossover fiction is kind of about the same thing, which is like, wouldn't it be cool if these things crossed over? And it's like they might still have interesting things to say, and like the combination might have interesting things to say, but then by becoming a combination, it kind of devalues from the individual like creative self-sufficiency of the things that they were.
Like, I don't mind crossover fiction. It just feels like when something that's created when a piece of fiction that is created as a standalone piece of fiction tries on the tail end or at any moment to sort of like intertwine itself back, like to create the idea of crossover fiction, I hate it. Like, if you're going to make crossover fiction, just fucking say you're making crossover fiction. Don't like try to like tell a personal story and then spend all your like calories and audience attention on showing how all the things are connected. So what?
Well, I feel like that has become a weirdly powerful force in genre fiction in the last like decade or so. Like there's this like obsessive drive to like tie things together, because in doing so you can create a bigger franchise.
Right. Well, some franchises are just from day one, X-Men was a conglomerate. Like, you know, like it feels like whatever. The Avengers was a conglomerate. Like at least has been for long, maybe not originally, but has been long enough now that we just associate them all together. So like, fine, whatever. Let those things be the way they are. But that I just hate that everything has to go through that fucking grinder.
I think it's also the soap operaization of stuff. I mean, people.
Yeah, as television becomes a more powerful storytelling force.
If you're a casual viewer of stuff, you probably watch it for occasional zingers and plot, because you can catch up on plot, you can follow plot, and like the whole Marvel movie universe is basically the most expensive soap opera TV show ever made. Like, I don't know, it's. But
the first thing, I don't mind like things tying together, but I mind it when it. Like it becomes the goal of tying them together becomes the intent of the piece.
Sure.
Like it's like now we're literally just spending screen time to tie these things together, as opposed to having them being tied together be a happy byproduct of a different intent we have. If that makes sense.
So you're saying you don't like the Avengers?
I don't care about the fucking Avengers. I couldn't give a fucking shit.
I know. We'll spiral off into space if we start
I tried to
talking about
watch
the
the
Avengers.
actually. I
I've
tried.
never
I really
seen
liked
the
it.
Avengers, so I wouldn't even. I don't even.
You would hate
was
it,
a
Chris.
bad moment for me. It made me feel not good. Not because the movie's bad or because of anything, but because I figured I'd like it, and then when I didn't like it, I felt bad about myself. But I felt like an asshole for not liking it. The end. I couldn't figure out why it was better than other things. Like, it's so successful, right? Like, The Avengers is, what, a top 5 movie of all time now.
Is it really?
It's crazy successful.
I think The Avengers
Top
is
10 maybe?
It's like, I mean, I don't want to.
Who cares?
I think
Just
it
go.
boils down to the fact that it's a movie about a lot of people working together to do something good. It's a superhero movie that doesn't have a bunch of like grim dark bullshit in it. It's just like it's a reasonably positive movie that also happens to have a lot of expensive action and witty dialogue in it.
I'll try it again.
Huh?
Do you like it?
I do, but I don't know if you guys would like it.
I'll try it again. For you, Jake.
I don't think you'd like it. Whatever.
Well, never mind.
Man, I keep wanting to get back to stupid Rapture conversation for no reason, because I was going to leave it and then you talked about fan art again. It's fine. Whatever.
We got a robot.
Fucking robot.
Fucking the robot. Sorry, I was going to say the best piece of reader mail ever, because it was actual mail that showed up in the fucking post.
mail
robot
ever?
news.
Fucking the robot.
Whoa, what?
It was Sean
Fucking
Sediment
the
a second
robot.
ago.
Well,
We have a robot.
we are in possession of a double robotics
Double.
double.
Double, yeah. We're in transient possession.
This is basically a like self-sufficient segue that you put an iPad into the top of, which then becomes a head of a person remotely controlling it with a webcam
Anywhere in the world.
and a piece of software anywhere in the world, and their face just is like hangs out on this iPad on top of this robot. This like
it's just like a
two-wheeled
pole with
robot.
wheels.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's why I call it like a Segway. And it just, the person on the other end can just talk to you and control it, roll it around and raise the head up and down and just walk around, like roll around your office and like be there. It's crazy. We have Nels Anderson, who works remotely, was just on that thing most of today, like wheeling around and saying hi.
Yeah.
I
love it.
It's amazing. It's like the best.
I love it. I really like it a lot. It's crazy. It's became like very natural to interact with Nels in this form.
Mm-hmm.
It was really fucking weird.
Yeah, it's weird because I've been kind of enamored with and admittedly kind of made fun of telepresence robots for a long time, since I saw a video for one a couple years ago, because they look hilarious, but they also, like, telepresence robots now kind of fit into the same place in my brain as like overt user interface in games, where like when you watch someone else interact with one, it seems insane, but assuming you don't let yourself get super, like if you don't think about it all the time, your brain slips over it and there's just a human presence near you. It's fucking
to a
weird.
human entity.
Until
like,
it disconnects or the iPad runs out of batteries.
But that's so jarring,
or Nell
right?
starts, when he had to like go feed his dog or something, he's like, oh, there's a dog. Like, what is going on? There's a Canada's in that hole where that face was. Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
But
it was it was uncomfortable for the first 2 minutes, and then Nels just walked over to where I was sitting at the counter working, rolled over like, and just was like, "Hey, dude," and I was like, "Hey, man, like I'm just let me just do this thing, and I'll do the thing in a second." And then he's like, and like motored away. And I went, I just had the
Nels was here in my
I
brain.
would have if I...
Yeah. It was odd.
It was fucking cool. I really dug it.
This is how it starts, though.
Oh,
yeah. First, you let them into your home.
Yeah, this is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No.
It's not good.
Like, Nels, at one point, just like
sent to us by a
disconnected
reader,
and was just not there anymore. And, you know, there's like a part of you that thinks that maybe one day this is just going to be the robot just kicking him out.
I mean, the thing has no AI that we're aware of.
Yeah, that second part's important.
It has a light that turns blue and green on the base. One day it might turn red.
It does turn red.
It does turn red, but it doesn't turn like deep red.
It doesn't do a pulsing red.
It doesn't do Hal red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think that's in the Pantone book somewhere.
But yeah, no, it was sent to us by a reader because we've read a couple of her emails about this robot in previous episodes, and it just showed up.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. It's cool.
I really like it a lot.
Yeah.
It made working easier. It's so dumb. It really did, though.
It made Sean Vanaman, Campo Santo, like italic
Robots.
font on
They
the
do
front of it.
Robots make more
They do
easier.
kind of make work easier. ...
Cut to montage of 5,000 robots across the world.
And my bones.
All just your bones are being carried away by coconut crabs.
Like coconut crabs. They're
Like Amelia Earhart's
slowly
bones.
cracking them open, sucking out the marrow, and turning the rest of me to dust, to sea dust.
Coconut crabs?
Yeah.
They leave behind just
Coconut
enough bones.
crabs are like the army/worker drones for the robots.
Can I ask where the coconut crab thing came from?
Nels this morning just posted a coconut crab image into the chat.
Ugh.
And then we're like, what, those look like
4 foot
zerglings.
Huge crabs.
It does. It looks like a pig. It's a piglet-sized crab.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crab the size of a
Who
Labrador.
apparently are responsible for like carrying off and possibly consuming like half of Amelia Earhart's remains.
That's the going theory. That is I don't know. Like,
That feels a little suspicious.
What do you mean suspicious?
Like it's like I don't know. That theory sounds like somebody came up with that. And
it's
didn't
my
actually.
favorite theory because it has enough credibility that if it is true, it is the best.
There's
thing
no
that's-
way of ever knowing.
They found a partial skeleton. They found some navigation equipment which had the serial number of her navigator, and they found a fuckload of coconut crabs who are known to do things like harvest dead things and steal bones to put in their nest.
They have nests.
They have a crab home.
Really?
Apparently.
they molt every once
that I
a
knew.
year, and they have to like create a burrow to protect themselves.
Oh my god.
So there could be a coconut crab burrow that has Amelia Earhart's like femur in it.
We can only hope.
We talked a lot about how they're hermit crabs when they're younger.
My wife is named after Amelia Earhart, so it really makes me. This whole thing is just sort of not.
Your wife's bones will be carried away. I mean, okay.
Her final wish, her bones to be
buried
carried away.
Right, but if you're gonna... Okay, here's the thing.
I can't wait.
Famous globe-trotting aviator.
Sure.
If you're gonna go, at least go on a weird unknown island when your bones are then carried away by crabs and buried. If you're
They're
gonna go,
big
giant crabs.
if you're gonna
Giant
go out as
crabs.
like a notable adventurous type, at least have your bones carried away by giant coconut
This is why I
crabs.
know. This is why I know. I don't.
These are Amelia Earhart's giant enemy crabs.
It's what she
They
would have
attacked her
wanted.
weak spot.
She died as she lived.
With her bones
ripped
being
apart by crabs.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Coconut crabs. They're so gross. Look up coconut crabs. Do
Yeah.
not search.
You know what happened?
Do not search for coconut crab garbage can. Do not search for
Nels
goatsy.
fucking put the photo of the coconut crabs in the team chat to inoculate us from how terrifying introducing a robot into our lives was. Because we're like, holy fuck, it's the size of a dumpster. It's just eating that. And then like, oh, excuse me, robot. You're not scary. This is scary. Well, it's like fucking scanning our bodies.
Then we watched a robot play threes. And
Oh my
That
God.
just makes me think, what if the like fucking impossibly patient and calculating AI that controls threes
is controlling Nels.
is
Gosh, if I
just
so
like,
I've
put
been,
that in one of these fucking robots and give it like
It takes a snapshot of the room and figures out the optimal
a saw.
position. Right?
And, like,
I was
Yeah.
so I play a lot of threes,
yeah, I know you do.
and the idea of me
You
sitting,
probably have played more threes than I ever have.
yeah, I've played a ton of threes. The idea of me sitting at my desk, like, oh, let's turn my iPad on for a little threes action, and sitting there just sort of like, and then just feeling like a little nudge on my shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the double robotics telepresence robot, and it's like push up, like left, right, and just like slowly nods. It's weird, like trundly
Yeah.
nod,
Yeah.
like oh my god, it's up.
God, that's my favorite part about it is that because
It needs to
only,
stay up.
It needs to stay up, but it only has one axle, and
It has
so
gyroscopes.
it
keeping
has
up.
gyroscopes to
Yeah.
keep it up. And so when it kind of stops and is like
Looks
finding
like
its
breathing.
footing,
It has a
just kind of
breathe
like
idle.
looks like it's breathing because it's slowly compensating very, very tiny amounts back and forth
Yep.
to balance.
That's a
It's
nice little idle.
crazy looking. Yeah, it's cool.
That robot showing up with just an iPad that has, because when no one's logged into it,
Mm-hmm.
you see its camera view inside of it. But if you
doesn't-
look
yeah.
if you look up into it and no one's there, but it's looking down at your iPad, so you see your threes game in its view, and then sort of just a little like hazy analog static version of the tile sliding to the left happens. You do that, and then it just waits for a second.
And I get the 3084 tile or whatever.
Yeah,
the
but
fuck.
because you're just following its instructions, and then the next image that comes up is not threes, but it still has the staticky thing showing you what to do.
and then just a splash of blood on the iPad.
No, it's just telling you to do
It's
something
like,
else.
Yeah, right.
It's like, look
Slide
what I've
my
done.
chair over and
Yeah.
like instantly push somebody into a like a
Right.
an
Look what
electrical
you've
wire.
done. Look,
Compact.
look what
Yeah.
us working together has done to your threes game.
Yeah,
Now imagine what else we could do together.
the presidency.
Oh man, if you're
That's
Manchurian
your
candidated by the double robotics remote telepresence AI that doesn't exist,
Running mate, double robotics. No, my vice president just lives in a different country.
Double Roboto. Star Wars character.
my vice president lives in a different country. Can vice presidents do that? Could they be born?
My vice president lives in
They
exile.
couldn't have been born in another country, but they could live there. Like if
I thought the vice president
The
can be
thi-
born in another country, but the president can't.
really, so that means the president does not have to have been born in this country
I
because
think that it's like a weird loophole. I'm almost, as someone who wasn't born in this country, I've looked into this. I could be
As someone who
I've looked
wasn't
into
born in
the
this
ways I can
country,
become president.
because at one point I was in the 9th grade and everybody's like, anybody in this room can be president. And I'm like, I can't. Sorry. I don't think so.
I'm like, but you could be secretary treasurer.
Yeah. And that-
the line of succession.
exactly. I could be
You could
like
King Ralph your way to
secretary of
the
the interior. And
All you
then
have to do is
NORAD could
orchestrate.
explode.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. Though the thing I was thinking was that the robot would have manufactured a like fictional vice presidential candidate who is constantly on its screen, but the line is that this person
He's just in Canada right
lives
now.
in Canada. or
He's
something.
elsewhere, but he actually does not exist, is
Yeah,
what you're saying.
right.
He's a construct. Okay.
But
But
then
it would have
you,
to, that character would also have to be kind of like a down home, kind of good old boy. That would be the character the robot
I
invents.
could see Joe
to, like-
Biden being a construct that lives
Yeah,
only on a computer.
That's like what I mean. I mean, he's not.
It would
Joe
ruin
Biden's
some
not a
of his
Southern
charm.
guy, but like
he wouldn't be able to
but
take off
definitely
that
has
scarf with such vim, but
Yeah, but like that kind of archetype. Of
yeah,
the,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
so this, okay, we now have in fact crafted the exact situation that a malevolent remote telepresence robot would create for you, where it says, we're going to be president and vice president, and I'm going to be Joe Biden, your vice president. And you're like, I'll do whatever you say, robot.
Oh my god!
Until you don't
if
wake
Joe
up.
Biden showed up on that fucking double tomorrow,
But
yeah, I would.
What
do
if it's
anything.
not him?
Thanks for the
Who
help,
knows?
Sean.
If I thought it was Joe Biden, I can't. I can't be held responsible for anything I do.
You could make evil Joe Biden, TV screen Joe Biden, become our first double president.
I would do anything for Joe Biden.
Double president is also the bad name of this. What are we
I would
talking
do
about?
anything for Joe Biden in 3D or 2D representation. Except open his fucking emails that he sends me all the fucking time.
I know. I get so many of those.
Oh,
God.
One of those emails was
it was actually from Joe.
it was the B-ball invite, and you missed it.
Oh my god.
Now you're gonna be
I'm
searching through
so-
your archive.
Yeah, I had like a half step there where I went, that could have never happened.
You got that email from
Threes
Joe. I was like,
robot.
let's just go throw a ball around.
Oh my god, playing catch with Joe Biden. Oh, so good. I actually couldn't play I could never play basketball against Barack Obama. He would fucking take me to the house.
Whoa.
I've come around on that since I broke my leg. I realize I have no ups. It's not working. Yeah.
I'm
What are
just
we talking
eating
about?
snacks over
Threes
here.
robot?
I know, you're just indulging the nature box.
Huh?
That's why it's here, I guess.
Yeah.
Did anyone want to talk about the Threes robot?
I mean,
The Threes robot is incredible. We should talk about it just to tell
Okay.
people who don't know about the Threes robot. So
Right.
Threes, iOS game we've talked about a lot. We've probably talked about Doge 2048 more than Threes, which is our choice.
I don't think we have.
it's one of our choices.
Doge 2048 has been like 3 games discussed.
Yeah, but it's usually just a jokey reference, and then we put it in the description. Only once did I actually say anything substantial about it. Anyway, go ahead.
It's in this episode's description as well.
See?
You're right, case made. Anyway, I've forgotten the names of the people involved.
In Threes?
No,
No, Threes
in
Robot.
Threes
I
Robot.
can't remember the person who made the actual AI. The robot parts were made by Matthew Wegner. I can't remember the name of the guy who actually wrote the Threes AI.
Right,
that
Matthew
is controlling the robot.
Wegner
It's
is
a video game. They also are making a video game.
Yes.
Well, Matthew Wegner is. He's the guy making Aztez.
Yes, Aztez, which you can see at PAX East.
Maybe that guy's
Apparently.
involved as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but he previously was he like the Velociraptor off-road safari and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
he was one of the Blurst guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so
And like made the flashbang. They made like the IGF backend if anyone's used that.
right.
Oh my god, he made that
Yeah.
IGF backend's
But
really cool.
these two guys have made an AI to play Threes and the necessary robot hands to interface with it on an iPad. I didn't
It's sort of like
when I
finger paddles.
Yeah,
that
but like,
rotate
when I
on
heard
a-
that-
servo control.
when I heard that there was a Twitch stream of a Threes bot playing Threes, I had thought that like they were running it in an emulator or that they were
Yeah.
doing something where it was just or like they had a hacked build or something.
injecting commands into the software somehow.
But instead, the way that the system actually works is the camera that's streaming it seems like it takes an image of what it's looking at, rebuilds digitally the actual Threes board based on the image that it sees, then calculates hundreds of thousands of potential moves, and then a little robot paddle slides the tile. And
Yep.
it's fucking fascinating to watch because of how long it takes between moves. It takes longer than any person will
Yeah.
ever take.
It demonstrates why I will never be as good as this game as the robot is, because when you say hundreds of thousands of moves, that's kind of counterintuitive because you think, well, there's only maximum four moves available every turn, except what it's doing is it is calculating the next move after that and the next move after that, potentially, because it knows what the next tile is going to be, and it knows that the next tile is drawn from a deck of 12 possible next tiles, and as it like gets to the end of that deck of 12, it can predict with higher and higher reliability what the next tile is going to be, or it has a higher likelihood of guessing what it's going to be, which means fewer simulations to run. Like if it's already used 9 out of the current deck of 12 tiles, it only has to branch out 3 like forward-looking branches, however many fucking thousands of combinations might occur. But it just crunches all those numbers, and it's fucking patient about it, and it just does it. It only takes a few seconds, but it's longer than I usually wait in a game of Threes, and I know that my brain will never be able to look more than like 1 or maybe 2 moves ahead in that game.
It
ever.
also not being a human means is not tempted by the AV.
Exactly.
but it's
That is
interesting
the craziest part
That
of
has
it.
taught me a lot about how to play Threes, though,
Me
and
too.
about my thinking about it. Where you watch like 296 tiles on the board, and you're like, join those. You can join them. Put them together, and it will not even
The
like
robot does not care.
even if they're
The robot-
if they're diagonal from each other,
Yeah.
but you know that it's one swipe to put them next to each other, then another swipe to join them, it won't do it. And then it will put them next to each other, and it's like, and then the two fucking faces on the tiles look at each other and smile and
Yep.
start like being wacky, and you're like, oh,
Yep.
it's jumping around. Look,
They want
they want to be
to
joined.
combine.
But it obviously reveals if that slide exists, doing that is obviously the least optimal move right now because you're guaranteed for that move to exist until it's the last possible move you can make.
Right.
Like, at absolute worst case, that huge scoring slide is going to sit there, so you should probably do less immediately beneficial
Right.
like board building,
Yeah.
and watching the robot do that, you're just like, oh, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, the robot will set up crazy situations even when there's like low-hanging fruit all over the place. The robot is patient. Like the robot
is patient.
It is. It reveals why we're fucked because the robot doesn't care about the short-term gain.
Right, the robot is actually like the Jason Voorhees or Terminator of threes, where it's just silence.
Yep.
Slide. This is relentless. I will just keep going at this pace until
it has like designs within designs. Like
inside of its brain, it's actually seeing the board in red, and it at the top has the 6 best threes players. Like there's like you said there are 6 humans who are better at threes.
Well, I don't know exactly how that falls, but there's only like 6 people who've
seen
reached
the
a certain tile
higher than the robot has reached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the robot ended up reaching it. I actually don't know. I need to look this up.
Those 6 people are dead now.
But yeah, like it's a crazy thing to watch because it drives home how much of the way that we like instinctively look for patterns and want feedback to validate us is controlled
and
by
have no
kind
long-term planning.
Yeah.
And have zero long-term planning.
Or even if you think...
If robots were in charge
of
fixing climate change, it would be fucking done already.
Yeah, of course it would.
They're like, just minimize the output of this, increase the input of that.
Remove these 2 billion people.
See you in 49 years, bitches. And it'd be over.
Well, robots would also just be like, turn off all refrigerators, kill all humans.
Yep.
Global warming solved.
Yeah,
Did it.
Exactly.
Optimal solution found. You are removed.
Yep.
Even within the rule set of not killing people, I think the robots could figure it out.
That robot would be itching at the edge of that rule, though.
Well, it would be curbing behavior.
It would be making humans less healthy, for certain.
Right. I found out that I could solve...
Your comforts, your life comforts
warming.
would decrease
if we
a lot.
just up pollution and reduce safety standards in these areas, it will temporarily increase global warming. But in the long term, my forecast determined that it will in fact solve the problem.
Run some crazy, model.
That's because it will in fact just kill
the air will become nitrogen, and most of us will die.
But it'll self-correct in 4 eons.
Right, exactly.
The robot is patient.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fascinating to watch.
The only time,
you know what's funny? Back to the double robot real quick for a second. It's like self-correcting gyroscopic balance mechanism that sort of makes it look like it has a breathe idle actually makes me not afraid of it.
It makes me super afraid of it because I think that it's... I know,
really?
looking at it... Okay.
My animal brain says that thing's alive. So if there's trouble, I have a tool bag I can go to eliminate a living threat.
That happens
Where
first.
if it's just sitting there completely fucking still and then turns and then moves forward with no sort of I'm balancing, I have to respond to gravity same as you.
I laugh at it when it trips over a cord.
Right.
Because my brain tells me that I'm superior to it.
You are not.
I know, but that's the thing. I see it wobbling around, and I know that's not making it tired. But then I think it actually is.
It has a battery.
Because it has a battery.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think about the fact that that's kind of irrelevant because it comes from a machine that could build more of it, and that machine will not get tired.
So I don't go that far. I was only saying that it tricks my brain into thinking that it's something that I could deal with.
It has a little organic movement because it has to deal with real life.
Right, yeah. Its organic movement endears it to me in a weird way. Whereas the threes robot is different. It is a number crunching super machine.
The threes robot versus how human beings play threes is interesting because I think the first thing that all of us started talking about when we saw the threes robot was chess AI, because chess AI is that's the popular, can a computer have a brain that can best a human? And it's interesting because chess...
There's been a push in recent history.
Yeah.
But computers beat humans about equal
the way that human beings play chess, though, is to think about it very similarly to how AI thinks about threes. When you as a human are an amazing chess player, you are just looking at the board and your brain is drawing out as many possible moves, counter moves as you can. Right. And that's how the threes AI robot works, but that's not how a human being plays threes because...
When I was saying that robots could solve climate change, also a team of chess masters could do it as well. It probably
turns out a team of scientists could and already have solved climate change.
I choose not to believe that.
That's true. That's true that you choose that.
Whatever. In the pockets of the UN or somebody. Follow the money.
Wake up, sheeple.
I don't know. It's interesting that watching a threes robot play threes and do as well as it does
is a metaphor for
no, it's not a metaphor for anything. It's just interesting.
It definitely made me feel like a animal watching it be so successful at a game that I've struggled to be good at.
It's just funny that chess exists and that does have game like the high level of that has human beings who think about chess entirely the way that robot was thinking about threes.
It's because my failure at threes is always because I made an impulsive move. I made the fucking pair those things up, of course, and then I'm like, and I know I'm 2 moves away from being done. Like I always know 2 moves away that I'm fucked. And
right.
That's the thing that kills
threes
me about
is perpetually
threes.
the put a kid in a room, put
with
one cookie in front of him, and say, "When I come back, you get 2. If you eat it, you get no more." You always
have you seen those videos?
Yeah,
we talked about them on the podcast, right?
But you always eat the cookie.
Oh,
you always get the bit. You're like, it's also a short.
You don't trust. There's another cookie.
It's short term. Short term rewards in exchange for long term viability. Because like if I match these now, I'm at least going to get 6,000 points probably.
Well, it's still a long term strategy, right? Where like the animal that says eat a cookie whenever it's presented to you.
That's not a long term.
In a reality where there's always there could always be cookies presented to you, will live the longest, right? Where it's just like.
That sounds insane.
But of course it's insane. But like the patient pack animal just starves to death, right? That's why like, lions and dogs like go crazy when they're on a kill. It's not good. I don't like it. It makes me feel bad. I gotta have that cookie. You gonna give me some of those? Give me some of those nom noms.
Oh, don't do that. People put this in their ears.
I don't want any of those. I was kidding. I really don't want them. I really love the Nature Box snacks, but I don't want them right now.
You got to stop eating those on the air. You got plenty of Nature Box to eat when we're done. It's gross to hear that in your ear. You guys want to do some Mirmo?
Yeah. Let's do the one.
Patrick Reppel.
The one Patrick.
Yep. Patrick Reppel says, a few notes on comedy. Hey guys, love the show. Just a few points on comedy mentioned in the last episode. Sean, the Gottfried example of the 9/11 joke you brought up was at the Hugh Hefner roast, but I think you may be thinking about the response to his tweet about the Japanese tsunami that brought outrage and lost him his Aflac commercials. The general way the joke about 9/11, which was something along the lines of, I'm sorry I'm late, my plane took a detour on the building and was not aired on TV, has been contextualized, is as a sort of sharp relief by the comedy community. The transgressiveness of the joke, contextualized by the aristocrats' joke that followed it, was sort of a message to the comedy community, whose industry is heavily centered on New York City, that it's okay to laugh about their grief the same way they tend to deal with all grief. Obviously, the key difference between a New Yorker making a 9/11 joke right after it happens and the joke about the Japanese tsunami right after it happens is context. Then he goes on. Eddie Murphy,
I wasn't conflating the two, but I appreciate it being outlined the way it was.
Yeah. Eddie Murphy Delirious is the radically homophobic one. Eddie Murphy Raw is the radically misogynist one. Murphy was never a political comedian the way Pryor or Rock or CK are, but his contribution, much like the first couple of seasons of South Park before it got satirical, was to assault the tyranny of good taste. Murphy was aiming at the moral majority mentality with vulgar glee. I think that's significantly different than, say, Chris Rock's signature bit, black people versus blank, I assume.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But in the same ballpark as progressive, whether politically or through attitude, cultural forces.
I really like assault the tyranny of good taste as a sentence.
Yeah.
This is some good rhetoric in this email.
He goes on. Matt Stone is Jewish, and the character of Kyle is, or at least was in early seasons, a specific depiction of what it's like to grow up Jewish in Colorado. The idea that all these kids' classes are based on personalities, fighter, wizard, whatever, but the other one is just defined by religion or ethnicity feels like a pretty amazing expression of that. He goes on.
I agree.
Dave Barry was a newspaper columnist who wrote a humor piece 5 days a week for over a decade. I don't care if 90% were dumb or cheesy, that's impressive as hell. Most of his books were just collections of the best of those pieces. That's fine, I wasn't dumping on Dave Barry.
A dump on Dave Barry. I was the one who did it.
I don't care one way or the other, but he says, if you're interested in the combination of suburban kid boredom and RPG elements in the South Park game, I would suggest Dungeon Quest. It's from an older perspective than South Park High School, but it basically feels like a potent mix of the Smashing Pumpkins 1979 video, 70s underground comics, and D&D. Also, do you have an internal rule about not picking episode titles from little interstitials in between main segments? Because Piercing the Fourth Dimension is good, but that Gazoo run netted a dozen amazing potential episode titles. Your friend and mine, Patrick Reppel.
We generally don't choose episode titles from the interstitials.
That's not always true.
I don't think we have a hard.
I think we probably go to the main content of the podcast first. At least I do when I'm pitching episode titles. If we must. No. I need you back. I've been writing descriptions 5 episodes in a row. It's too hard.
Yeah, it's not fun.
I don't like it.
That's fine. I'll write the one for this one, or will I? I think the reason that we don't end up picking episode titles from the interstitials usually is because we don't know that the interstitial content is going to make it into the show.
Yeah.
And we end up
Chris surprises us.
sort of
Well, because I don't know either. I should just
Yeah.
listen and see if any of it's...
I always take mental notes of a weird thing that someone said or a weird concept that could become an episode title and just sort of file it away and then fail to remember it. But it's always from the stuff that I am like, this is obviously part of the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, we basically never edit out the stuff, like actual podcast content. The only stuff that gets picked and chosen is stuff that happens when we're on break.
Like that's effectively off mic, but
yeah. But are close enough to the mic for it to be audible.
.com/wizard.
that is not
That's
a
not an
sponsor of this
actual
episode.
thing,
That's
no.
we're editing that out.
No, we're not. Anyway,
Call
thanks
us.
for the email, Patrick Redfalls.
Yeah, thank you for the email and the forum thread that was in.
The South Park thing is interesting. There were a lot. People had like really strong reactions to things said about South Park on last episode. Like, some people really find that show
That is an ugly
extremely-
fucking show.
Yeah, like, and people had really good reasons for why in some cases, and other people were defensive of it. And I thought that was really interesting. And one of the things also that occurs to me is that that is a show with a lot of episodes, and it would probably be really easy to be like, well, they handled something really well in this episode that I remember.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa. And the next half dozen episodes have some just really fucking shitty shit in them. Like, that show has, what, hundreds of episodes? I don't know.
Yeah,
Almost over 300. Over 300 episodes.
300 episodes?
Yep.
No
Almost
way.
positive.
How could that be? That show's only been on since 1998 or something. A million. Date yourself with that Wayne's World reference. Reference humor. Huh.
That wasn't a Wayne's. It was.
Yeah,
Well,
it was. That sound effect did not mean that until Wayne's World.
Actually, I do want
fuck me.
I'm sorry. I want to read one other email on this subject, actually, because I appreciated it.
Okay.
And then we can wrap it up. Benjamin Riley says, "Hi guys, as always, amazing podcast. I just got a Kickstarter email with my digital songs backer rewards, and once I remembered what it was actually referring to, I got excited." That's a little bit of a slight deserved burn on us there. A couple of thoughts on your discussion in episode 152 about South Park and the politics of comedy. As a gay man working as a journalist for an LGBTI newspaper, offense is something I have to think about a lot. First of all, I think media literacy is relevant to these discussions. It's a dangerous road to say an individual, let alone a society, can reach a point of media literacy or awareness at which the potential harms of certain cultural representations are overcome. At an individual level, it is naive at best and arrogant at worst to suggest anyone can be free from the influence of culture, and that at any level of awareness or literacy we can be completely aware of the effects of that influence. In short, awareness of culture does not equal exemption from culture. If we can't have that awareness at an individual level, there's no way we can at a social one. We have to make informed decisions about cultural consumption and sanctioning of culture based on possible harms to ourselves and others. That's not to say all offensive comedy is bad. Clearly, there's a place for pushing boundaries. But to take Sean's Lenny Bruce example, awareness of his apparent social progressiveness can't be assumed. And even if it could be, we can't assume the mitigating effects of that knowledge on the impact of, for example, homophobia in his comedy on ourselves or anyone else. But we can guess they won't be great. My second point is a bit less existential. To look at Lenny Bruce, it's fine to argue his intentions should inform the impact on us of his homophobia, and of course context is important. Even assuming we're operating in that context, people in the group being marginalized will bring a context people outside that group can't really understand on some level. Of course, we all bring our personal context to culture, but if you're talking about an identifiable group like gay men, it's more straightforward. I'll admit I struggled a bit hearing Sean, a straight man, arguing Bruce's homophobia was more tolerable because he is known to have had progressive views on homosexuality. I'm a smart guy and I like to think my media literacy is pretty high, but it's only relevant to a point. When I hear certain words or comments or jokes, my reaction is somatic. It hurts. In a way people outside my community are unable to understand no matter how well-intentioned. But like Sean's faith in Lenny Bruce, I know you guys constantly create a gay-friendly podcast and very importantly are open to dialogue with readers like me in particular. It's always rad to hear Danielle Rendo on the cast. I didn't mean to write so much. I hope I didn't come off like I have nothing good to say. The fact that you're having these discussions on a video game podcast is a fantastic thing. Keep up the good work, Ben. Melbourne, Australia. I thought that representation and like just the physical part of like reacting to stuff like that, I thought that was a totally like valuable perspective.
Yeah.
We got
what else you got?
Like I'm not going to read any more of these emails because I think we got to cut it short at this point. But like we got a ton of emails on this. It would be impossible to like do justice to the breadth of responses last week's episode got. So like it's just impossible. But if you're interested in talking about this with other Idle Thumbs readers who have interesting things to say about it, the episode thread for episode 152 on the Idle forums is like has already become, I think, one of the like
The top 3 most discussed threads.
yeah, and it's really good. That's the thing. Like it's actually really really good discussion.
Yeah, it's busy. It's got some like actual divergent opinions. It's
Yeah,
it's
people are really thoughtful in there. It's good. So if you're interested in discussing that stuff more, that's a good place to do it. Or wherever else, but that's a good place related to this podcast.
Yeah. I think we're probably done, but because this episode is once again the plug zone where plugs rule, apparently,
We need your help.
we need your help.
Yeah, we have no idea what to put in our
Can't
store.
even make this an appeal. An appeal?
Yeah, you can.
Because the plugs and our plugs rule help us. We've set up a store
Help.
selling Idle
Help.
Thumbs
Help
branded
me.
merchandise.
Help.
We need your
Time
help.
to die.
How are we going to know what shirt color to print next? How the fuck are we going to know, Jake? Fucking tell me. How are we going to know?
This is like the turn of the Swedish orphan. What's going on here?
Polish
Orphan. Watch it.
There are no Swedish orphans.
No, fair enough.
They all just fucking live a happy-go-lucky life in chocolate factories and ski towns and they
Somewhere a
eat
Swedish
fish.
man is having a somatic reaction to
Yeah.
this podcast.
Yeah, well, as an American man,
Oh, so it
fuck
says,
me,
yeah,
right?
This is classic safe racism, Sean.
I know. Taking down the Swedes. Fuck the Swedes. I said it.
Wow.
God. Anyway, but give us money for things.
Wow.
What?
All I wanted to talk about was a store because the guy's email talked about our Kickstarter rewards finally shipping to people after a long ass time. Sorry, we shipped a lot of them earlier.
Ingmar Bergman, good Swede. Go on.
What are you doing? You're putting it somewhere. This podcast. Sweden.
The RSS feed is not accessible in Sweden. I talked to Doug about it. We're cool, guys.
Christ.
Anyway, we had this thing put together a long time ago, and for various reasons, most of them are us dragging our feet at every single step of the way. We finally put up the Idle Thumbs store. It's at store.idlethumbs.net. It has, if you were interested in any of the stuff that we sold as Kickstarter rewards, they're now actually up for sale. Those blue T-shirts, the shitty wizard posters or art prints by Graham Annable, stickers that say Idle Thumbs in various fonts.
Actually, I think one of those stickers is new. Like the wizard sticker wasn't.
Yeah, there's one that is new that it says Idle Thumbs in the logo of inspired by the Nintendo movie The Wizard, and then also
And that's new, right? That wasn't in the Kickstarter.
it was not in the Kickstarter
Yeah,
except in gold foil T-shirt form,
Right.
and the vinyl EP with 4 songs is also up there. But as
Very
also a
limited
complete
quantities
pack?
on that.
yeah,
Oh yeah, the record there.
there's like a few dozen of those that exist. I think some tiny number.
Outside of
the
if you're a
Kickstarter
Kickstarter
reward.
backer, you have one saved for forever.
But it's just
Wow.
Although get on that soon. If you're a Kickstarter backer who wants your record, you should. We're gonna save the ones for the Kickstarter backers, but you should just get on it as soon as you can,
Yeah.
so you don't let it fall by the
Which
wayside.
means you were sent an email with codes to get it for free.
we're gonna melt the unclaimed Kickstarter ones into a statue in the shape of a VGA, and then send that to one lucky Kickstarter backer.
Also, if you don't want yours, let us know, and we'll figure out a way to.
We'll throw it into the sea.
Anyway,
Barry, let's see. But also, like you were saying, Sean, we do have a poll up right now, which is what is our next T-shirt?
Pick one.
Pick one.
We'll do it. We'll do it soon.
yeah, you can get to that poll is like linked from the front page on store.idlethumbs.net.
So we'll probably I don't know, keep that poll up for a week, then pick one, make it, and it'll be in the store hopefully
Soonish.
very soon.
2015.
The upshot to us having spent a long time getting the store up and running is that we now actually understand the production pipeline and fulfillment of this stuff really well. So like it should actually, we're pretty good at it now, I think.
Yeah. We really put some mental power into it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We're
check
not
it out.
fucking Amazon, but it's
store.idlethumbs.net.
Oh, check out the About page.
The about.
Oh yeah,
page
the
is
about
strong.
and support page
Yeah.
on the store, not the main site. The main site's fine, but the one on the store is better.
But the store's About page.
It's better.
It is.
Bye.
Video games.
You know, Vanaman is Swedish.
Is it really?
I thought it was Dutch.
Swedish.
Wow.
So I was told growing up, at least. I could be wrong.
I
My
thought you
dad.
told me it was Dutch. Weird. Sweet.
They're the fucking same, whatever.
Listening to Brave Wave. Playing as my favorite Dota Ward, Terra Blade.
Stop it. This has to end.